Yeah,
All right.
Lucrative, James. What's popping, people? We're back again for another breakdown. This time, as you can see, I'm not in my regular office. I'm out here in Vegas, and I've got the Vegas gambler right here, Yanni the Greek, special guest. Yanni, thanks so much for coming, mate. It's been a pleasure speaking to you for the last 10 minutes, and I'm happy to have you on my podcast, bro.
Thank you for having me. Great time. First time he's been here in Vegas, and when he reached out, I was all over it right away. I saw what he did last with the pool table pod, and I was all over it. But more importantly, this is just such a good card, and I'm glad to be here. Hopefully we have some winners, and fire away. Don't be shy. Ask anything. We're open book.
Yeah.
And more importantly, I got to say, if you guys could see the house that these dudes are in, there's only 2 of them, but it's like 8,000 square feet, enough garage for 14 cars. Like, insane. Beautiful home. Real beautiful home. Got to tell you.
We have to do it right. We're in Vegas, you know. Everything's bigger in America, so we have to do it in Vegas. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Anyone got any questions, you know, let us know. We're going to run through the UFC 303 card. Then we're going to shoot the pool podcast, which is going to be a little bit more in depth about your origin story, gambling.
Oh, yeah.
We just shoot the shit
and
and talk
stories.
shit. Yeah, you got some. You told me
sure.
some good ones already.
For sure.
But we're just going to speak about UFC 303 today. So first fight of the night is Ricky Simone versus Vinicius Oliveira. Absolute banger of a fight to kick off the card. I was a little bit pissed off about this card because my man McGregor cancelled, and I was a little bit down on the card. Like, for fuck's sake, you know, I came here for McGregor, and now we're getting Pereira. I've already seen the fight. But as the fight draws closer, and as I look at the card, and as I do my research, because I get excited after I do the research, right? I'm like, you know what? This card is a fucking banger.
It's better now.
Yeah, it is better. It is objectively.
You're
better.
missing the big star of McGregor.
The superstar.
The different,
it is better. And this is a great fight to start the night off. Ricky Simone, obviously, he's coming off 2 losses, you know, so his stock's a little bit down. But in the market, his stock's not down. He's minus 250 at the moment, I think. Maybe the line's moved a little bit. Against Oliveira, who is a good striker, but he's very vulnerable on the feet. You know, he's getting knocked down a lot. He's been knocked out a few times, but he can knock you out. You know, usually his fights end inside the distance. But for me, Yanni, I feel like I've seen him grappled too much and too easily. And Simone is just such a high-level grappler for MMA. And he's not only a high-level grappler, he has high fight IQ. Like, the guy's always going to grapple. I don't think I've seen a fight of him where he didn't grapple. Now, the Song fight, even though he shot about 10 takedowns, he didn't grapple enough urgently. Like, it felt like to me that he was a little bit scared of Song's power. He started to shoot takedowns after he was already hurt, after he was rocked. He shot panic takedowns from away from Song. So, you know, if he does that here, maybe the fight won't go as I think it will. But I believe that he's going to be able to get takedowns and probably get a decision or a finish win. I have been looking at the under 2.5 rounds because Oliveira, as I said, very vulnerable on the feet, but very powerful guy. He can knock you out with knees, punches, elbows, anything. And Simone has got a bit of a dodgy chin, and he is aggressive. You know, he does go aggro. He does force fights. And I like to bet unders in fights that I think are going to be high-paced wars. You know, regardless of durability and stuff. I look more for the pace sometimes over durability and stuff. So, yeah, that's the way I'm leaning. I feel like Simone is the rightful favorite. Potential value on Vinicius Oliveira at plus 200 or more. Ultimately, I'm going to say Simone gets a submission or a decision win. How do you feel about the fight?
I agree 100%. You're an X's and O's guy. I'm more looking at the market and a lot of the data. And first of all, the market definitely agrees with you as far as the under. They opened that with the over favored, and you're seeing nothing but steam come in on the under. And at bantamweight, where it's more of a coin flip, 50-50, whether it goes to the judges or not, that's a telling sign that you have to pay that much big now to go under with these 2 guys, especially Simone. He's a 50% guy as well.
Yeah.
And Oliveira, even though, you know, he's coming off his debut win, having defied probability, you lose more of your debuts than not. Getting that plus money, I think he's going to be attractive to the most recreational bettors. That's why I think Simone, you're just not paying enough. I really don't. Like, I think he should be closer to a 3. Like, if I saw him up at minus 300 where he wins this fight 3 out of 4 times, I would not be surprised. If you see the level of competition he's faced, that's what it is for me. Like, the level of competition. His wins come against guys that won 70% of their fights.
Yeah.
Like, so he's been thrown in there against top level competition. Oliveira, I think you're more taking potential over the credentials. You're getting a decent return, like you said, 2 to 1 on your money.
Right.
That I get that going out on the risk curve, but I think that the Simone side is the right side. I think you're right as far as predicting the outcome. Simone wins this fight, but you know, as far as the betting line goes, 230, 250, 250 around that range. I think there's some EV on the favorite. I don't think there's a lot.
Okay.
I don't like the dog. I'll tell you that. To me, it's favorite or pass.
Yeah,
it's favorite.
Yeah,
or pass.
Simone's level of competition is massive, and you know we see these fighters taking step up in competitions, and sometimes they can't hang on a level. You know, I see it quite often in MMA, and it's like sometimes a fighter has a great stylistic advantage, right? Like they may be a better striker, and they're facing a wrestler, but they have also great takedown defense. But because the level of competition has been so much higher for the wrestler, it even overtakes stylistics.
Yes.
He's got a bad stylistic fight, but he'll still win the fight because he's just been fighting good guys.
Such top guys.
It's just such a step down in competition. So that could happen here. Yeah, no bets for me at the moment.
No
bets for me on that fight.
Do you put any stock in Simone having the back of the wall, having lost 2 straight?
I don't, you know.
Any pressure like that is good or bad? It's hard to quantify that. What's it worth? And
it's hard because I feel like it's 50-50, man. Because it depends who you are. You know?
Exactly.
And do we know who they are? And also it depends on who they are at the moment. You know, like maybe if that happened to Simone 3 years ago, he would respond better. But maybe now he's a bit older. Like it's just so hard to quantify. And they're 100%. Human at the end of the day, these fighters, right? They go through, like we were speaking about Peyton Talbot earlier, minus 2,000. He could wake up on the wrong side of the bed. He could have an argument with his girlfriend, and now he doesn't perform well. Like he is a human. They are human. So when you're talking about back against the wall and mental stuff, like it's very hard.
It's more for sports, for talk.
Yeah, it is.
And for podcasts and stuff. And what I've realized, honestly, is people use it the way to support their side.
100%.
Like if they like side A, they're going to say, he's lost 2 straight. He's back against the wall. He needs this win. If they like side B, it's like the pressure's on. He doesn't do well under pressure.
It's 100%.
You know what I mean?
It's like the exact same thing.
To confirm your own bias.
Yeah, it's confirmation. And that's what I realized that I was doing. You know, like when I first started betting, I would do that. I'd be like, oh, you know, the pressure's on now. I think he's going to lose. You know, he's going to crumble. I'd do the exact same thing. So after like 2 or 3 years realizing I did that, I'm like, I'm just going to completely ignore it. And that's another reason I don't really put stock into fighter interviews. You know, we can speak about it another time, but fighter interviews I've found to be fairly 50-50. Sometimes they can be good or sometimes they can be bad. It doesn't really matter. It's basically a wash. You should basically ignore it.
I call it noise.
Yeah, it is noise.
I call it noise.
Is noise.
Most of it's just noise. You just got to factor that out, you know?
All right, so next fight tonight is Carlos Hernandez versus Ray Seruya. Ray's a massive favorite here, minus 500. It's funny because I bet Ray at an underdog price against Mark Lamaco, right? Plus 105, plus 100. I got him on the Contender Series. And now he's minus 500, fighting probably a better fighter, or at least on the same level. I think Carlos Hernandez is a better fighter or on the same level as Lamaco. But he's gone from plus 100 to minus 500. Even if he performed amazingly in that fight, to which, by the way, it was a close fucking fight. It wasn't like a complete blowaway. So he didn't actually perform amazingly as an underdog. And we're speaking about the market right now. How can you perform fairly well, not amazingly, as an underdog, right? And now you're facing a better fighter, if not the same level at worst, and you've gone to minus 500. And it's your UFC debut, to which is more added pressure. But we have data to back that up. So I'm not contradicting what I said before because you're a numbers guy, you're a data guy. You probably know, Yanni, that UFC fighters lose their UFC debut
57%.
57% of the time. Okay, right. And if you actually look at the type of fighters that are losing a UFC debut, sometimes these fighters are way better than their opponents. But they still lose their UFC debut. I actually did a video on this on YouTube. You can go watch it right now, where I went through all of the fighters that have lost their UFC debut that went on to do really well in the UFC. You wouldn't believe it, man.
Oh, of course.
The champions.
Makhachev.
Didn't he
lose
was that his debut?
I think that was his debut, wasn't it?
I don't know if it was his debut. It might have been.
Early on.
Yeah, maybe first or second.
One or second. A lot of guys.
Carlos Condit lost his debut.
Lost his first.
Rafael dos Anjos lost his first.
A lot.
Some fucking big fighters, man. Like really like champions. So I do think that is an added thing, right? Overall, I think Seruya is going to win the fight. I think he's minus 500 for a reason. His grappling upside is too big here. I think that the fight may actually go to the scorecards, which is a good plus money number. It's plus 155 to hit the decision. It's plus 175 yesterday. I fell asleep at the wheel, woke up in the morning. Someone already hit it. So I actually hit it at plus 155.
Did you?
Yeah, I hit it at plus 155. I just feel like his finishing is being overrated because he hasn't fought a high level of competition. He's only fought somebody one time on the level of competition that Carlos Hernandez is, in my opinion. And he went to a decision with him. So, look, he definitely could get a submission here. But I've seen Hernandez do well with decent jiu-jitsu guys, right? Which is Tatsuro Taira, who knocked him out on the feet, but couldn't do anything with him on the ground. And then also he got grounded by Alan Nascimento and got submitted. So I do have to, factor that in. But I think Nascimento's way more physical than Seruya. He's a little bit more, he's a little bit more slick with the submissions early. Daniel Barres took him down multiple times and he did well with him on the ground. So I feel like, it could go to decision. I could look stupid because if it doesn't go to decision, it's probably going to be a submission in 2 minutes. And so I'm going to look dumb if he gets submitted in 1 minute and I've got a bet to go 15 minutes, right? But if it does get into that second round, I believe that it's maybe minus 150 to go to a decision after that. So, or maybe even minus 200. So I like the GTD here. I like Ray Seruya to win via decision. How do you feel?
I was surprised on a flyweight bout to see so much money come in on the under.
Yeah.
Like it opened 2.5. It got hit initially. And you got to be careful early on because there's so much manipulation. Trust me, I work with a lot of these offshore books that you know what's happening. Like the limits are so low that they're putting out a number. They're seeing who's going to hit it. They manipulate the market so many ways to get the line moving one direction, then bet the other side when the limits get bigger. So you got to be really careful about the early action. But this one just kept continuing. As the limits were increasing, more money was coming in on the under. That was surprising to me so much that and now you're seeing 1.5s with the over favor.
Yeah.
Where the majority were 2.5. To me, that's just surprising.
Yeah.
Like you're getting that much under money, and then a sharp guy like you likes the over. Whenever there's a contradiction like that, to me, I just pass.
Yeah.
Because I'd be guessing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who's right and stuff like that. The good thing is they're giving you a better number now.
Exactly.
Because they disagree. But for me, this was a stay away. Like we touched on the one fight that for me was a pass because I just think you're paying way too much for the favorite, like you said, who was an underdog. And you already saw that there was resistance. When it got as high as minus 600, money came back the other way.
Yeah.
So there was.
Rightly so.
Exactly. Like you said, at some point, the EV's got to be gone.
Yeah.
Like you can't just keep betting that up because at that point, you're just betting the outcome.
Yeah.
Like you're not even caring about the number anymore.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's about the number, not the outcome, because the outcome is going to be a lot of times decided by randomness. The judges, an injury, like so much shit could happen in that one fight. They could fight that fight 3 hours later and it could be a whole different result.
Yeah.
Or the next day, the next week, and something totally different happen. So like,
it's true.
That's why I try to look at the big picture. Like I always say, when in doubt, zoom out. Because unless you're only betting today and not betting ever again, you have to approach it long-term.
Yeah.
Like unless you're only betting on Saturday, then that's all that matters. The number don't matter. The only thing that matters is picking the winner.
Yeah, I guess so.
But if you're going to bet again next week, next month, next year,
that's a good way of looking at it.
You gotta bet. You forget picking the winner.
Yeah.
You got to find value.
Fuck it. Sometimes it can get tough for me to do that when I'm on a down streak. So it's easy for me to fucking bet on these, bet the number. And by the way, I'm always betting the number, of course, right? But it's a lot easier for me to take risks, bet the number when I'm on a good hot streak, right? When I'm on a down streak, you start to doubt yourself a little bit. And I don't know if you've experienced this before, but you start to doubt yourself a little bit. You're like, fucking hell, man. Like, do I really want to take this plus 300 spot, which I'm saying is going to lose? Because one of the most annoying things in MMA, right, is that it's a 2-horse race and it's so volatile. So in my opinion, you have to be betting big plus numbers more often than not, right? I think that is the way to profit in MMA. I think parlays, which we can speak about, because I know you're not like a big fan of them, but I've made a lot of money on parlays.
Listen, if you've profited, do what keeps working for you. That's what I always say.
Yeah. So I profited for 6 years on them, but I think the best way for me to make money is betting on big plus money spots, like plus 200s, plus any plus money really. Obviously, if there's value, and then like I do my parlays as well, right? But a lot of times when I'm betting on these plus 300 lines, I'm saying he's going to lose, right? I'm literally saying, I think he's going to lose. I don't think he should be favored, but I think he should be plus 150. Right? I'm saying that he's going to lose 6 out of 10 times, right? But I'm still betting on him because he's plus 300. But I'm literally predicting him to lose. So when I'm on like a 2-3 week down streak, do I really want to bet on this guy who I'm saying is going to lose? But I have to, right? Because it's a long-term game. But it can be a bit tricky.
It happens every time, dude. In the production room at UFC on the line, because the producers know that I did this for real, and explaining to them, they got it took a little while for them to get it when I would say, listen, this is going to lose, but I have to bet it. Like, I'm taking this plus 400. Yeah, I'm expecting it, not the cash.
Yeah.
But my break even's 20%. They got to win this fight 2 out of 10 times for me to break even.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. You know what I mean? Like it should be higher than that or lower than that. And to the average, like recreational bettor, that just doesn't make sense to them. Why would you place a bet that you think is going to win? Well, because a minus 600 should win. Because on paper, a minus 600 is always going to look better than the plus 400. You know what I mean? The plus 400 is never going to look better than the minus 600. There's no chance that that is going to look, the results never. But that don't mean they have zero chance of winning or that the price is right. And I think too many MMA bettors not knocking it because I love so many of them are profitable more in MMA than other sports.
I have seen that,
I'll tell you that. That's what I found a lot of guys able to beat MMA.
The market's the most inefficient market.
Yes,
the sport hasn't been around
and
long
the proof
enough.
is the volatility. That's the
proof.
Dude, in the NFL, Tom Brady has to break his arm for a line to move significantly. They have to know the snow has to already land. Not that they're talking about snow, but they got to see it on the ground for them to move the line. Like they're not moving nothing. In MMA, I see a minus 300 favorite go to plus 200 dog in no time, in 30 minutes, in 45 minutes. That's an inefficient market if I've ever seen one. That's what an inefficient market's all about. But again, not to go long. The one mistake I do see people make, the biggest, and please, if you're going to take any takeaway, because the picks aren't going to matter if you don't bet size correctly, stop over betting your edge. That's what everyone does wrong. Even those with the ability to win. Bro, I'm going to tell you something serious right now. Honestly, I'm going to be truthful. I had access to some of the most profitable information you will ever get your hands on. I was a runner. I say this and I get goosebumps. On the strip at the Stardust, when the Stardust was the sports betting capital of the world, they brought out the opening line for everything. There was no offshore, I'm talking about, when I came to Vegas. So I was a runner at that time when each books had their own lines. There wasn't like they're just copying the screen. So I could walk across the street and get a whole point better, 2 points better on a game, just because a wise guy hasn't bet it there yet. Someone had to bet it for them to move a line. They didn't move it on air just because the screen moved. They didn't move it. Someone had to bet it. Well, I still manage to lose my bankroll over and over and over and over again. I continue to go broke over and over and over again with access to the most profitable information, working for the most profitable betting syndicates that were moving all these lines. And I managed to lose money every single year. How? Because I overbet their edge. Like I was never around for their ride up. Like when things were good, I was bet sizing correctly. When things got bad, emotion got into it and everything changed. And the last point I'm going to make is what people make this one mistake. They think like that they need to bet bigger to make more money. You need more volume. You don't, there's two pieces of the puzzle. I'm going to share this. Sorry, not
this
to go
is
long.
Game. Go, man.
I need to share this.
Please.
There's two pieces of the puzzle. This is what I learned from one of the sharpest sports bettors on the planet. He tells me, Ace, there's two pieces of the puzzle. That's it. There's two. It's your bankroll and your bet size. You can increase this, but you can't increase this. Because each time you increase your bet size, you're increasing your risk of ruin. If you could increase your bankroll, then you could bet more. But if you ain't increasing your bankroll, you can't bet more. And here's the bottom line. You need 200, and what people are saying, wait, risk of ruin. It's simple. It's exactly what it means. If you have an edge, I know this man has an edge. Trust me, I'm not here by accident. I know James now. I've talked to him. I know what he does. I know how well he's done. And I'm not going to, again, not like but I'm not going to waste my time, and nor am I going to talk well about somebody and give confirmation that this is a plus EV sports bettor if I'm not 100% certain. That much I can promise you. This man's plus EV. With that said, he could determine his risk of ruin. What risk he wants to take on to be ruined. Meaning, if he has 200 units, his risk of ruin is 40%. Believe it or not. He's going to double his bankroll 6 out of 10 times. He's going to lose it 4 out of 10 times. That's with 200 units. Now, how many people with $5 grand are only betting $25 a unit? None. That's why they get ruined. You want to lower that risk of ruin to 1%, where you double your bankroll 99 times, lose it 1 time? You need 1,000 units. 1,000. So if you're betting $5, how many people with $5 grand are betting $5 a unit? Nobody.
Doesn't exist.
Exactly. That's why the sports books continue to profit year after year, and why 99.5. Bro, it used to be 1%. About 5 years ago when you asked sportsbooks, because here in Nevada, they're all companies. They have to put out their quarterly revenue.
Yeah.
We see everything where they make their most money. The most money they make, believe it or not, are penny slots, if you could believe that. If they had their choice, if they had a choice, they would get rid of the sports book and put penny slots there. The reason they don't is because he may go across the street and stay because they have a sports book. That's the only reason they have them. Sports books aren't that profitable for the casinos. Trust me. They rather have a penny slot there. So what has changed over the last 5 years? The more sports betting has become mainstream, the more losing that's happened. Like, people haven't become more sophisticated, they become less sophisticated in gambling, meaning 1% used to win. You get 100 guys in the sports book, one of them have positive lifetime earnings. You now need 200 people in the sports book for one of them to have positive lifetime earnings. So less than 0.5% of people betting actually are profitable. That's how hard what you're trying to do truly is. Like, if you're not ready to treat it like a business so it pays like a business, do it for fun. Do it for fucking entertainment. Excuse me. Sorry. Like, do it to enjoy yourself. Don't use it as an investment vehicle, because if you're going to use it as an investment vehicle, you got to bet size correctly. You got to think long-term like he did and like I did. I told you, I lost bankroll after bankroll after bankroll after bankroll.
Many bankrolls.
Until I finally got honest with myself and said, dude, you almost 40 years old, all you have is what you have in your front pocket, and you have all this knowledge, all this experience, access to all this information, and you haven't been able to profit from it. Are you an idiot? And I woke up the next morning and never did the same thing again. Started from 100 to 500. That's where I started, bro. 100 to 500. I saved 40 grand and bet 100 to 500. I was comfortable with a 20% risk of ruin. And I bet 100 to 500, and I got that up to betting 1,000 to 5 dimes, and didn't even go. Took a decade. I'll tell you the truth. Took about a decade, but I didn't even go above that, like to deal with other agents and deal with that kind of shit. I'm comfortable where now I invest in other things, whether it's art, real estate. You're there. You know what I'm talking about. That's what ends up happening. So please. I love sharing, especially if I could give you a winner's spot. I wish I could give you a winner for every play. And I know my man wants to do the exact same thing. If he could win for you every week, he'd win for you every week.
Try.
But more important than any pick he gives you is bet sizing correctly. Because he could go 80% and you'll still lose money if you bet size incorrectly, man. So sorry, not to go off on a tangent.
No, thank you, man.
Don't get me going.
That's why we have you on, bro. Like, that's why we have you on, man. And I appreciate you coming in.
Love you. Thank you.
At the end of the day, I always say this. I say this every single podcast, Yanni, because I always go off on rants, right? Like, literally, you just did there. I do that every single podcast. Right? And there's 90% of people like it because they know me, right? They know that, all right, we're going to have to deal with 1 or 2 rants from James. Yes. And I always say, right, look, I can tell you if Ray Seruya is going to beat Carlos Hernandez, right? I can give you that. After this weekend, in 3 days, that information is worthless. It doesn't matter, right? But guess what? What you just heard from Gianni in the last 10 minutes, you can literally keep that with you for your lifetime, right? And people just, they don't want to know that shit. But it's way more important to understand how to fish than to give you one fish. Because once you eat that fish, that's gone. It's gone. So we'll get back on track now.
Yeah, and I say that out of love because, again, man, I made every mistake, bro. I swear to you. Like, I say I have an Ivy League education in sports betting because I lost so much money. I have like a Harvard degree.
Yeah.
Sometimes I even ask myself, like, if I never bet in my life, would I have more money now if I just did like a normal job?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I've never thought about that. I lost so much money, but it's cool. We're winning now.
God bless where you're at now.
Yeah, exactly.
God bless America.
All right, next one, Arlovski versus Martin Buday. Look, man, I think this is one last ride on the Arlovski train. At the end of the day, Arlovski beats these type of heavyweights, right? Slow, lumbering, overweight. I don't think that Martin Buday has much upside to clear him out on the decision, right? I think he has big upside to take him down and smash him, right? But he doesn't shoot that many takedowns. And also, he's not even a great wrestler. So if he does take him down, or if he tries to take him down, is Arlovski going to be able to defend those takedowns? It's possible he can, right? Arlovski's a veteran of the game. So I just feel like unless Martin's smashing him on the ground in round 1, it's probably going to be a close fight. Arlovski is elite at his point fighting game when he goes to a decision. He's won a lot of decisions against fighters that, you know, maybe he shouldn't have won at, where he's like a -110 or +150 or even +300s. Don't forget, Arlovski went on that run where he was winning decisions at +200s. Tanner Boza, Felipe Lins, back in the day, right? -110s to Collier, -110s to Jared Vandera, people like that, right? So He's plus 200 here. He just went to a 60-40 decision loss against Waldo Cortez Acosta, who I rate way higher than Martin Buday. And maybe he doesn't have the grappling upside like Buday has, but I don't think Buday has really covered his line in almost any fight in the UFC, to be honest. So I'm on Arlovski here. I'm going to look stupid if he gets taken down in round 1 and he's just checked out of the game because he's 40 whatever years of age. But I think this is a ride on the Arlovski train one more time. I got Arlovski via decision.
Did you bet it a little earlier?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, you got a good number, man. It was the right side early on. You had to take it. And with the money coming in on the over, and you're seeing the books respect that money, if this one goes to a decision, the last thing I want is a Buday ticket in my pocket at minus 250, 300. A decision against Arlovski. Again, 13 years older, so it's not a guy I want to run out and bet, but you're getting 2-1 and greater on your money, where 1 out of 3 times he wins this fight, you're profitable. And I think at the end of the day, if this goes to a decision, you're going to be holding your breath. I agree with you. I think it's Arlovski or pass. I personally probably not going to have a bet on this fight. But I agree 100%. It's Arlovski or pass, because even Buday, he's coming off his first loss. But you look at his opponents, like his wins hasn't been against like stellar competition. I think they're like a combined 8-12, something like that.
And some of those fights he didn't even deserve to win.
Exactly.
Like the Brzeski fight was very close. The Collier fight was close. I think he won, but I bet him, but it was close. I faded Martin Buday last time out. He was minus 200. Right, against Shamil Garsiev, and now he's minus 250. I don't agree with both lines. I won last time. I was right last time. Let's see if I'm right again this time. Is what it is. You know, sometimes you have those fighters where you can read their skill set, and I've only bet on 3 Buday fights. Right, I bet on him against Collier at minus 110, and I won. I bet against him at plus 155 number on Gaziev, and I won. And I'm betting against him here on Arlovski, so we'll see what happens.
He's been the favorite. He's closed the favorite in every single fight.
Is it every fight?
Yeah, every single fight of an average of minus 215. So the market expected him to win about 68% of his fights. He's won 80%. So he's outperformed the market. And I think that's why you paid a premium at minus 400 where it opened. It's exactly what happened. So you did great jumping in on the dog. Win or lose, I think you made a great bet.
We'll see.
On fading Buday.
Yeah, I think so. So Waterson versus Gillian Robertson. Boys, I swear to God, man, I want to take this Waterson shot because I just feel like stylistically, and you can tell me a little bit more about the numbers and stuff, right? Because this one I'm looking at purely stylistically, right? And
that's why I love hearing the X's from you. That's why I listen to Kalika, because I know that's how he approaches it. You know, he watches so much film and all that. So I always want to know what he thinks.
I'm always trying to factor in everything, right? So the way I break down fights, I don't know if you've heard me speak in my content, but I say there's 3 ways to break down a fight, right? There's stylistics, statistics, and intangibles, right? When you're speaking about how the fight's going to play out, looking at the market is a separate thing, right? You could include that in statistics, but looking at the market is a separate thing. But when you're breaking down how the fight's going to go, you look at those 3 things, right? So stylistically, you look at, you know, if this fight is better striker, whatever. Statistically, you know, age, reach advantage, number of wins, etc. And then intangibles. So are they coming off a loss? Are they coming off a win? How many have they had injuries recently? Like whatever it may be, right? And I think that stylistically, Michelle Waterson has a massive advantage in this fight. Great takedown defense, and she's a better striker. She's going to outpoint Gillian Robertson. I'm pretty confident of that, right? But intangibly, man, the chick's 40 years old. She's coming off a career-altering beating against Marina Rodriguez. That was one of the worst beatings I've seen in women's MMA. It was a very horrible beating. And let me tell you something now. Fighters coming off a beating like that, oftentimes they don't perform. Especially at this age, they may not perform. She could be gun shy. Maybe she's still suffering from that. Like it's extra volatility, and it's not positive volatility, right? It's negative. And then also, this is something that isn't mentioned too much as well, but intangibly, and it is hard to quantify, but if there's lots of negative intangibles or slightly negative intangibles, then you can kind of quantify and give it some percentage, right?
For sure.
If it's like one thing and you don't really know, but when there's 40, that is a negative intangible, right? Like, and you can look at data, right? Older fighters tend to lose more. She is a devoted wife and mother, and I think she had a kid a couple of years ago. She spends a lot of time with them. She's a karate hottie. Let me tell you something now. Michelle Waterson, she is like one of my original favorite fighters, man. I think she's super respectable as a person. Like I've seen her interviews and stuff. She always carries herself well. She's like, I respect her a lot, Michelle Waterson, right? But she's a devoted mother and wife. I don't know how much, like she is training a lot. I do see on her profile she's training a lot, but that's just another thing I cap in. She had a baby recent, like a couple of years ago. That's a thing that you have to take.
For sure.
Right? It's a mental and physical toll it takes on your body, right? So all of these things, and also at the end of the day, man, she's never fought a submission threat like Julian Robertson before. So if Julian takes her down, it could be a wrap. It's one of those fights where if you have a bet on Michelle, you could look like a genius for 2-3 minutes, and then she could literally have a singular moment of lapse, and she could get submitted, and you're like, what the fuck? I might still bet her saying all that, right? So undecided at the moment. Maybe we've taken another angle or something, which the guys on my paid picks will know. We won't go too in depth on that, but yeah, I'm kind of deciding whether there's value on Michelle or not.
I got a little bet on Waterson. One of the groups I work with did bet Waterson when that line came out. And when I looked at it, again, I don't get too excited to bet a fighter that's 1-6 over their last 7. That's also lost 4 straight.
Yeah.
That's upwards of 40 years old.
Intangibles,
like you touched on.
Intangibles.
There's not a bunch to get excited about except the price. If you're getting a good return, you're going far out on that risk curve, but you're getting a decent return. And you know what, Jillian Robertson, I think the reason was this, what you touched on, was that takedown defense. I think Karate Hottie's faced over 30 takedowns, has over 70% takedown defense. And she's going to be able to outstrike her easily. If she could keep this standing, she could make it really interesting. If she could just not get submitted, like you said, because she could be winning the first 2 rounds.
Just don't get submitted.
Winning the first 2 rounds and then get stuck.
It can happen.
I think it is a dog or pass situation. Because even when I look at Jillian Robertson's wins, they come against opponents that won less than 50% of their UFC fights.
Yeah.
It's her losses that came against elite fighters. That's why if you look at her overall record, it looks a lot better than it is her opponent's overall record. But it's the losses. Like you see that with a lot of fighters where they're it looks like they faced the most stellar competition. Yeah, but they lost to them.
Yeah.
They beat the less than 50%.
It's hard to quantify then.
Yeah, it separate those fighters. So for me, that's why I like the Waterson side. I think there's obviously a little bit of plus money value there. Yeah. And Sharp Money did agree with it. But I can't go too big or take too big of a position with, like you said, those many intangibles that you know are against you. Just the age alone.
Yeah, and that's where bet sizing comes into it. And I do want to speak about bet sizing a little bit later, but we won't go off that rant right now because I'm interested to hear your opinion on it, because I've actually changed my staking structure this year. I think it's working well, but we'll speak about that in a bit. Gianni, we got 694 live guests right now.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Basically, everyone here is shouting you out, man. Saying
God
Gianni
bless
is a
you and yours.
guest.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is so cool to watch.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time, man.
They said James might have met his match with the rants.
We both go. I'm sorry. I can't help myself.
You got a lot of knowledge to teach the people, man.
I can't help myself.
Next fight, Peyton Talbot versus Yanis Gomuori. So, man, Peyton Talbot, one of my favorite fighters in the sport. You know, people know about that. I've gone heavy on Peyton Talbot multiple times. I've bet on him in every single fight he's had that you could bet on. I bet on him in his Contender Series fight. Then I bet on him against Nick Aguirre. I bet on him to win in round 3. He did. And then I had a max bet on him, Yanni, last time out against Cameron Simon, -110. Obviously, he looked very good in that fight. And now he's -2,000. So it's always funny to see the hype, like change lines. Because we were getting -110 and -135 against Cameron and Simon and Reyes Cortez, right? And now we're getting -2,000 on, I don't think Gomuori is as good as Cameron Simon. Is he as good as Reyes Cortez? Maybe even not. But is he -2,000 worse? I don't think so. So this line is clearly, undoubtedly based on hype, right? It's
150%.
You cannot disagree.
0 doubt.
That's not a conversation, right? There's no argument against that.
You can't argue it.
So if the line is based on hype, first of all, you cannot bet it, right? And second of all, if anything, you have to look to fade it, because the biggest edge I've seen in MMA is there's two main edges I've seen in MMA over the last 7 years. Betting on the sport since 2015, right? 9 years. And that is hype, right? And recency bias.
Yep.
So those two things are where I've made my biggest money.
Me too, bro.
Fade in the hype and fade in the recency bias. And I feel like there's massive hype on Peyton and massive recency bias. So I'm not betting on Peyton. Do I think he's going to win? Yes. Do I think he should be a massive favorite? Yeah, I think he should be a very big favorite. I think the only way you can play this is by looking at props. I'm not going to speak about that too in depth. I have played a prop on this fight. The line is completely gone, so I'm not even going to mention it anymore. But yeah, I think Peyton's going to win, probably stoppage. And something I will mention, I don't mind Peyton's submission in rounds 2 and 3 here. They're massive prices. I got 16-1 and 18-1. I'm turning a -2,000 into a +1,400 and almost a +2,000. And the reason I do have some bases behind that, right? I'm not just betting it. First of all, He's minus. So let's talk from market, right? He's minus 2,000 to win the fight. He's minus 400 to win inside the distance, right? They're saying 80% of the time he's going to win inside the distance. So are you telling me that now him to win via submission in rounds 2 and round 3, where, by the way, Yanni, he's never got a first round finish at all.
Really?
Right? He's never got a first round finish in 14 fights, amateur and pro. He's never got a first round finish. You could
tell his style probably that
dictates
that.
Yeah, he almost got one last fight. Fair enough. Maybe he's changing his style, but he's never got a first round finish. Are you really telling me that a minus 2,000, right, should be 14 and 18 to 1 to win via submission when he's already got one submission in the UFC? He's already got 2 submissions on the amateur scene. And this is the big stylistic reason, because I'm a stylistic guy, right? I'm a tape guy. The big stylistic reason is Gomuori, anytime he's rocked, he shoots takedowns. He shoots sloppy takedowns, he's wobbled, and he tries to clinch. I saw another guy shoot sloppy takedowns when he was pressured and when he was wobbled. And what happened to him when he faced Peyton Talbot? Nick Aguirre got submitted by a rear naked choke. Am I going out there saying a 14 to 1 and an 18-1 should be minus 200 and this is a lock? No. What I am saying is that I do think there's some value on those lines based on the stylistics and the market where I'm getting a minus 2,000, right? MMA, if he's a minus 2,000, he can only win 3 ways: decision, finish, or submission. And if you're saying that it should be 14 and 18 to 1, I don't agree. So I like that. I think there's some value on the submission in 2-3. I do think he's going to win ultimately, probably by knockout, obviously.
I'm going to keep this as simple as it possibly could get. Listen, Gomuori was only a less than a 200 dog against Gomez in his last fight. You know what? He's undefeated. Has he 3-0? Gomez? Now, I think he's won 3 straight fights. I'm pretty sure.
He's undefeated in the UFC,
right?
I believe.
Yeah. So, and he was less than a 2-1 favorite against them. With that, 2-1 dog. With that said, here's the bottom line. There is zero reason to bet Talbot if you're betting for profit. Meaning if your goal is to bet for profit, you can't bet Peyton Talbot. Even if he goes out there and wins this fight in the first 30 seconds, you couldn't have made a worse bet. Yeah. Here's why. If you're laying that money line or adding them to any parlay, and I'm going to just, again, this isn't opinion. I think it's, I'll tell you when it's opinion or fact. I think this is as close to fact as you're going to get, more than opinion. Yeah. He opened minus 600, okay? The break even of minus 600 is 86%. That's what the implied win probability. He's now minus 1,800 to minus 2,000. So now it's about 95, 96%. So already you've lost 10% of implied win probability if you've waited till now. So the train's already left the station. You can't place a worse bet. You could have got plus 600 a week ago. Now you're betting plus 1,800, 1,900. But what does that mean? Break even 95%. That means he's got to win 95% of the time just for you to be at break even. So to have an edge, he's got to win what? 100% of the time for you to have a 5% edge? There's no chance of a black swan event like he touched on. Even the best traders in the planet, like the algorithms that move billions on Wall Street, they factor in 2-3%. Even when they're sure of something for a possible black swan, you have to. A war breaks out, something they're not sure about, a pandemic, anything. Same thing with sports betting. Like he said, he could get in a fight with his girlfriend. He could wake up with a headache. He could have got injured and not told anyone. There's so much that could happen that we don't know about. So you take that 2 or 3% for a black swan. Where's your edge? You're going to take that risk of betting $1,800 to win 100 when you really have no edge. All you're doing is predicting the outcome. And again, I don't know anyone got rich doing that out here. I know a lot of guys that made money betting sports out here. None of them by being psychics and doing that, like saying this guy's going to win, so I'm just going to bet him, because bad bets win all the time. See, a lot of recreational bettors make the mistake of thinking that a good bet is one that wins. Nothing could be further from the truth. Me and him right now, I could give him 10 to 1 on a coin flip. We flip it one time. Why can't I win? It's 50-50. Yeah. He still has to take that bet. It's the best bet he's ever going to make. Yeah. Is it a bad bet because he lost? Of course not. And as I'm speaking right now, someone right down the street from where we're at just hit the roulette number. Just got paid 35 to 1 because it landed on 8. Yeah. Okay.
That was me the other night.
And guess what? There's 38 or 39 numbers on that roulette wheel. So he thinks he made a great bet. His girl thinks they made great bets. And I hope his family's happy for him and they believe he made a great bet. But he made a terrible bet, because unless he was getting 38 or 39 to 1, he wasn't even getting a fair bet. He had to be getting 40 to 1, 41 to 1 for it to be a great bet. So I know for recreational bettors and fans, it's hard to approach it like that, but it's how you're going to have to do it if you are really trying to bet for profit and not for fun. You got to get to that point where you see a minus 1,800 and you automatically know it's dog or pass. Like if I didn't get down on him at minus 600, even if I knew it was, again, not like if I knew inside information that a fight was fixed, I would still be worried with that little of implied win probability in it. Exactly.
He could be fixed to fall down in the second round and Payton could break his ankle in the first round.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
We see it happen all the time. I bet on Eric Silva to beat Muhammad Naimov at plus 425. The first 30 seconds of the fight, he snapped his ankle or some shit. He tore his ankle. Some weird shit happened. That wasn't in the script to happen. He didn't think that was going to happen. Did he go in there with an injury? I don't know. We'll never know, right? But what I do know is that my bet lost based on some random sub 1% thing. So you always have to worry about that.
Bad bet. Yeah. Good bets lose all the time, man.
So Payton Talbot's going to win, I guess, is your prediction, right?
Talbot wins. Talbot wins the fight.
Talbot wins the fight. That guy's going to be a superstar.
I'm a fan. I bet him against. I had him against Simon too.
Great bet, man. But literally my favorite bet of all time. It really is, because there was just the way he did it, and
it was beautiful.
Well, actually, I've had a few good bets, but that was one of my favorite. So next fight,
Jourdain and Silva.
Yeah, I faded Jourdain last fight against Sean Woodson plus 155. But I actually think that he maybe should be a slightly bigger favorite than he is now.
Jourdain?
Yeah, I think so. The reason I believe is because, first of all, I think it's a step down in competition. And I know people say that Sean Woodson is... People say that Jean Silva is better than Sean Woodson. What I will say is that in Jourdain's career, overall, this is a step down in competition. I don't know specifically if Sean Woodson is better or worse than Jean Silva. I'd argue he's proven a lot more. I'll say that, right? I'll say the jury's out on Jean Silva. He was losing that Contender Series fight till he landed a big shot, right? So I will say the jury's out on Jean Silva. But what I will say is that Charles Jourdain's fought some good fighters in the UFC, man. He's fought Sean Woodson, who's got a lot of wins in the UFC. He's fought Julian Erosa. Joshua Kulabau is a good fighter. He's fought some good guys, man. Who did he say? Landover now. Like, he's fought some good guys, Charles Jourdain. Jean Silva has not seen the level of competition that Charles Jourdain has seen, right?
He
hasn't seen the level of competition. He hasn't got the UFC experience. No. I just feel like this is, this could be a spot where we see a close first round and Charles Jourdain take it over on cardio, pace, experience, level of competition, comfortability in the UFC arena. Like, I do think that could happen. Now, I'm not touching this fight with a 10-foot pole, and I'll tell you why, because it's a very volatile fight. And the way I broke this fight down on my website, and I'm going to upload that later today, is that I think this fight is going to be won on intangibles, right? I think stylistically, both of these guys can win. But I think the intangibles, like cardio, is going to win it. Big moments are going to win it. A one shot is going to change the trajectory of the fight because both fighters are quite volatile. They hit hard. I just feel like the fight's going to be won on these moments that are hard to predict. It's easy to predict stylistic matchups, right? It's hard to predict who's going to land a big overhand. It's hard to predict if
he's going to gas.
Yeah, if a fighter is going to get his game going enough needed so the opponent gasses. It's not hard to predict who has the better gas tank, but it is sometimes hard to predict whether the pace of the fight
will gas him.
Is going to gas him. Because there's fighters that are very gassy, but they're only going to gas in a certain type of fight. So is that fighter going to bring out that pace? We don't really know. The fighter might get a takedown in the opening round, and then the pace of the fight completely slows down. So I just believe that the fight's going to be won on intangibles. I may be wrong, but I just feel that. And so I don't like to bet on those type of fights because I think intangibles are quite volatile sometimes, right? And I feel like that's what we've got here. One bet I do like is the over.
You like the over?
Both fighters are extremely tough. And it's kind of, sometimes I don't like betting on this because I think both fighters have good finishing upside overall. I think they're both dangerous fighters, but I do think that they are both tough enough to last the decision. I don't think they're going to knock each other out because Charles Jourdain, that guy's got a brick chin, man.
He does.
He's never been knocked out. He's only ever been submitted. And that was against Erosa, who's a very good pace fighter. And, he kind of broke him in round 3. I do think that there could be a finish. I just feel like the overs, had some juice on it back at minus 135. I think it's a little bit juiced up now, like minus 170. I don't know if I'll be playing it now. I'd have to think about it. But, yeah, that's the bet I like on this one.
You got a good number, and it's just keep moving in your direction, the over 2.5.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, yeah, that's my prediction on the fight. What do you feel about this?
Honestly, I agree. Right now, it's Jourdain or pass. I can't bet the Silva side. Obviously, the line was much different when it opened. I don't know what the adjustment was for because most of the sharp guys that I talk to, at least out here, and the guys that I know behind the counter that accept that kind of action, none of them pointed to any of the groups that actually like move a lot of these lines as getting down on Silva. So I was surprised. Like, I don't know if it was just an initial hit early and not just cumulative money piling up on him, or if it had anything to do with the Weston Wilson. You know, Weston Wilson looked good last week, right?
Yeah, I bet on him.
Exactly. And Silva was closed minus 1,000 against him, right? Minus 900 and something. Yeah. And when this line opened, Jourdain was a 200 favorite. Now he's down to minus 110, 115, you know, coin flip either way with a little bit of big. I have to agree with you there. Just the experience alone, just that you know how tough and durable he is. And with you liking the over, with the market liking the over, this one's going to a decision. I like the experience in Jourdain there and being able to get the W. And he's definitely fought the much tougher competition. It's not even close. Yeah, if you look at
it. That does matter a lot in the UFC, man. It really does. You know, the Fertitta brothers, I don't think it's the actual Fertitta brothers, but he's saying Jourdain has never been KO'd. Just because Jourdain has never been KO'd doesn't mean he won't be KO'd. Smith recently got KO'd for his first time. So I just want to address that point, right? Obviously, I'm not saying that it can't happen, right? First of all, it can happen in any fight ever. And then second of all, you're 100% right. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it can't happen. But it's a massive, massive sample size we have on him never being KO'd.
Yes.
Do I take that into account? Of course. Do I say it's 100% guaranteed and predictive of the future? No. Do I think it's a massive, massive data point to look at? Yes. And you know what another data point is? Just look at this guy's face. Has he been knocked down before? Yes, Kulabau had him knocked down. This guy takes big shot after big shot, sometimes doesn't even get rocked, sometimes doesn't even get cut. And when he does get dropped, he looks completely fine and he doesn't really look like he's on skates. So I think that just shows the durability he has. Anything can happen, right? But I just wanted to address that point. It is important to look at what has happened previously, and it can be predicted of the future, right? So, yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I like Joe Jourdain there.
I'm interested in your next one.
Cub Swanson and Andre Fili.
Yeah.
I don't have a money line side in this one. Okay. I think that it's... So, despite me thinking that Cub Swanson has a good chance to get a knockout in this fight or potentially win a decision on maybe knocking him down once or twice, I can't take the shot on him here. And the reason for that is because I think Fili's the much faster striker, the much slicker striker. I think he sets his strikes up a little bit more well. And I do think he'll lose the durability battle when it comes to the chin, because I think the Cub Swanson has a better chin than him. And I do think that Fili's chin can be cracked at times. But overall durability, Fili has more. And what I mean by that is Cub Swanson, he gets hurt to the body all the time. He gets finished to the body a couple of times. And he gets hurt to the legs all the time. And something that Fili does in every single fight is heavy body kicks to the body and heavy leg kicks as well. So, you know, the angle that I like on this fight, Yanni, is the under. The doesn't go.
I bet you know. I had to know. Yeah, in the under. Yeah, I think that. Good thing you agree.
You bet on that as well? Yeah. And the reason I like that is because, like I just said, I think the Cub Swanson has a good chance to land a knockout with the chin, on Fili's chin. And I like Fili's chance to land a KO with the leg kicks or with the body kicks, right? And I just think it's going to be a high-paced war, man. I think both fighters are going to go for it. I think both fighters have durability issues. And I just think it's going to be a fight where they're going to throw hundreds of strikes. You know, whether they land or not, it's going to be 15 minutes of mostly striking. Maybe Swanson tries to get a couple of takedowns or even Fili, but it's going to be a high-paced war on the feet, and they're both, like, not very durable at times. So I like the under here. I'm not going to pick a winner, but ultimately, gun to my head, I think Fili's probably going to body kick him in round 2.
I like Fili, too. I think it's a perfect storm where you're getting Fili at a discount because there's some recency bias involved as well. Swanson coming off his win is a 2-1 dog. Fili on the flip side coming off that first round knockout. So it's almost like you expect the line to be shaded a little bit. But I like Fili being younger than him. I mean, Cub's now 40, man.
Yeah.
He's now 40 years old. Once you get into that 40 and higher, like that's the highest losing percentage in the UFC. I mean, you expect it anyway, except for Cormier, who threw a wrench into that data. You know, a couple guys did. But for the most part, once they hit 40, it's really hard. He's going to have the 4-inch reach advantage in what should remain standing. A guy like you who looks at the X's and O's even thinks so.
I think so.
And that's why I think he has the advantages. The only negative is, like, Fili hasn't really rewarded you at the window as a favorite. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't feel comfortable laying heavy chalk with Fili. He's not that guy that gets me all excited to go like 200, 250 on him. Like if it was around that minus 150 range, I'd feel a lot more comfortable. So that's why I bet a little more on the no, that this will not go to distance, sprinkled a little on the under. But I also have a small spot on Fili. I think Fili wins this. And is anything below like 300, I thought there's a little bit of EV there. And it's around 240, 250.
Fair enough. Next fight, Joe Pyfer versus Marc-Andre Barriault. So we spoke about this a little bit. You know, I mentioned it. I feel like it's a little bit wide, the line, right? I think Pyfer, you know, he's coming off that decision loss to Jack Hermansson where he didn't look terrible, but, you know, he was a big favorite in that fight, you know, similar line to what he is now. I think it was like minus 300 or something. I bet on Hermansson there, but I bet on Hermansson to win in round 3, 4, and 5. And it was a very, very... I don't usually do that where I leave the money line and bet only props. But I was so confident, and this is why, you know, you need to adjust your process always. I'm always learning, right? I was so confident that if Hermansson did win, he was going to break Pyfer late. You know, like Pyfer ain't surviving to a decision because Hermansson's going to get on top and he's just going to ground and pound him. But I was wrong. He won a decision. You know, he ended up winning the championship rounds, and I think he took round 3, and he won a decision there. But I don't see why Joe Pyfer should be chalked up at basically the same price he was against Hermansson, because first of all, that line was massively inaccurate. Yeah, Joe Pyfer should have been the dog in that fight. But now he's the same line, big favorite. He didn't do well as a big favorite last time out. No. I think the same thing could happen here. Now, obviously, it is a step down in competition, but I think stylistically, there's some upside for Marc-Andre Barriault here. You know, I've seen Pyfer slow down in basically all of his losses, except for, you know, when he hurt his arm. He slowed down against Patty on the regional scene. He slowed down against Hermansson. And Marc-Andre Barriault, his nickname is the power bar, right? His power bar is massive, and he takes your power bar. So I think that if the fight gets out around 1, I think Marc is going to start putting a pace on him. I'm pretty confident if it gets into round 3, Marc wins round 3. So I'm looking at it like, I've got a fighter who I think is going to win round 3, probably lose round 1. So it comes down to round 2, and I've got plus 260. It makes no sense, right? Now, obviously, Pyfer could knock him out in round 1, right? So it's not only contingent on round 2, right? So I have to factor in some Pyfer round 1 here. How confident am I Pyfer gets him down in round 1? I don't know. He's a strong guy. He's got a good overhand. You know, Marc can walk onto shots, but man, it doesn't take much for me. I'll tell you this now, Yanni. It doesn't take much for me to bet a plus 260 in MMA where I think the fighters are similar level. And yeah, I do think Pyfer's a better fighter, a better prospect. I don't think he's championship level, and Marc is like, you know, top 30 level. No. I feel like they're going to both get wins and losses in the UFC. So I feel like the level is similar enough to where I can take the plus 260 shot in a 2-horse race in modern MMA, where I think one fighter has a massive cardio advantage. And the other fighter is coming off a big fight where, you know, if he won that fight, he would have been in title contention, whereas like one more fight and he's going to fight for the title because they were trying to push Joe Pyfer. If you remember, Dana White beat Joe Pyfer and stuff like after.
that. Fight like Pyfer.
Yeah, you fight like Pyfer. Dana White's Contender Series. You was live there for that, I would assume. So, you know, they liked him. You know, he's coming off that. He may not perform best after that. I do factor those things in. When a fight, I've just seen it anecdotally. I haven't looked at the data, but, you know, what I've seen over time is that when a fight is a big fight and they lose that fight, they oftentimes don't perform well in the next fight. You know, when a fight is coming off a championship loss or something like that. And this wasn't a championship loss, but I do think it was a very big fight for him. He may be disheartened a little bit.
He was undefeated in the UFC.
Undefeated in the UFC.
He had what, 2 losses as a pro?
Yeah. So
undefeated there.
Yeah, I mean, that's my breakdown of the fight. I'm not saying Marc is going to win again, like we said earlier. Like, I bet on plus 260s, and I'm saying he should be a plus 160. I'm still saying he's going to lose, what, 62% of the time or some shit, right? But there's enough value for me to pull the trigger on Marc-Andre Barriault. And the line's moved now. You're not getting plus 260 anymore, right? Maybe plus 230 or some shit. So slightly different conversation. Not that much. But yeah, anyway, I think MAB has some chance to win it.
I think if you like the dogs in some of these fights, especially a fight like this, Pyfer versus Marc-Andre Barriault, I think you could wait till Saturday. I really do. I think because a lot of money hasn't hit the window yet.
Yeah.
When you're talking International Fight Week, UFC 303, there's going to be an influx of recreational bettors crashing with this party that the books are going to be forced to shade those lines against those when they're heavy one-sided. And Pyfer just seems like one of those sides that's going to get one-sided public money.
Yeah.
Marc-Andre Barriault, he's a 500 fighter in the UFC.
It went down to plus 230.
Doesn't have that sexy name.
And then it went up to plus 240 already.
And that's what I'm saying. That money's starting to come in. So the short money definitely took the dog And why not? I could definitely see it. I mean, Pyfer's been favored in all of his fights.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know, man. His level of competition hasn't been that stellar. You know, he already got that one loss. It was against a 10-6 guy. I get it. But still, I think there's too much hype behind him.
Yeah. We spoke about
without him having gotten it done yet to warrant that kind of price tag against a Marc-Andre Barriault. I get it. He hasn't cashed as an underdog. I think he's 0-4 in that spot. So probably a better hammer than a nail. But with that said, you know, he's got some power, man. And he's willing to take a shot as well. He's going to stand and bang. He's going to fight for your money. That's for sure. He will fight
that
for
fight
your
against
money.
Chris Curtis, who I actually rate higher than Joe Pyfer. That was a fucking close fight.
I lost with him. I had Barriault in that fight.
That was a good fight. That was a good bet. You had him at a decent underdog price.
Yeah. So I think maybe I have a little sour taste in my mouth with Pereira because I think I've had him in one or two of those underdog spots, but I couldn't bet Pyfer. No way. I think it's dog or pass, and I agree with you there.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I don't love the bet because, you know, I do think he can get knocked out. I do think he can get grappled a little bit, but fuck it, man. You got to take these shots in MMA. You know,
say small plus money bet. There's nothing wrong with that.
So the next fight, Ian Gary versus Michael Page.
Now we're getting into the main card.
Yeah, main card now. I think it is, boys, or maybe one before. These are where the good fights start. So
yeah.
This is a fucking good fight, man.
Great fight.
First of all, I just want to say, and I've said it a couple of times, you know, Michael Page is from the same place as me, right? He's from London. I think he's from like northwest London. I'm from South London, but we're both Londoners, right? So I always support my own. Yeah, I always support English people. I always support Londoners, unless I think they're fucking idiots or whatever, right? I always support them. So I've always been saying he's a good fighter, but I do believe in his skill set as well. He's a very, very good striker. Very hard to deal with in modern MMA. Like, who fights like Michael Page? Outside of Stephen Thompson, no one, right?
Yeah.
And he's a way better boxer than Stephen Thompson, right? So like he's got a lot more power as well. So I think Michael Page is a good fighter. He's finally getting his recognition because forever people were calling him a can crusher. He's a terrible fighter. He would get smashed in the UFC.
Yeah.
And I always argued with them. Maybe it was my bias from being from London. Maybe it was my bias because I actually think he's a good fighter, right? And people always said, yeah, you're just saying it because you're English, etc., etc. I finally feel vindicated when he dominated Kevin Holland last time.
Who's a tough out.
Kevin Holland's a very tough out, right? And I bet on him to win via decision in that spot, plus 240. And, you know, he cashed for me. And I think that this fight is a way harder fight than Kevin Holland. A lot of people I've seen on, and this is something that I always find interesting, Yanni, about the market. A lot of people on Twitter and who are messaging me, right? And who, I don't want to be rude, but I don't consider as sharp. Now, look, maybe someone's mentioned, because I speak to a lot of people, right? People DM me all the time. Maybe some people who like MVP are sharp and they have messaged me about him, but the majority of people have speaking to me about MVP. I don't classify them as sharp, or I just don't know them, right? But they're all on MVP. Everyone I've seen is on MVP, and guess what? The line's moving the other way, right? Yeah. So it's just always interesting to me. It doesn't always mean anything, but it is interesting. Like, all right, I'm seeing all these motherfuckers on MVP, but the bookies are respecting the Gary action, right? Now, what does that mean? Maybe more money's on Gary and I just haven't seen it, or maybe the sharps are betting Gary, whatever it may be, right? But I think that is a little bit telling. And me personally, I like Gary in this fight. Do I like him heavily? Not really. I don't know yet. This is one of the fights I actually want to retape because I only watched a couple of fights and then I actually had to do something else. So I haven't got it fresh in my mind. So I do want to retape it. I will put that disclaimer out there. But I think that, first of all, we have to mention Gary is 11 years younger here.
Yep.
Massive thing to mention, man. 26 years old versus 38 years old, right? 37 years old. Now, at this point, I think Michael Venom Page is on a downtrend. And a lot of people will be like, no way, just beat Kevin Holland. Michael Venom Page is not as good as he was 3-4 years ago. I don't believe so, right? Who is better at 37 than they are at 33? Not many people, right? Not many people. So I don't think he's as good as he is athletically. You know, I don't think he is as good as he is. But Gary, I think he's getting better from fight to fight to fight. So Gary may show his best performance of his career here. I don't think we can say the same of Michael Venom Page. You know, I think we're going to see a downtrend from MVP over the next few years. And I think we're going to see an uptrend from Gary. So I just feel like Gary's getting this fight at the perfect time. That being said, Michael Page is out to win this fight. Gary needs to be smart in the way he approaches this fight. And this is an intangible, right? Is Gary going to approach this fight as a kickboxing fight where he's standing on the outside? Because if so, that shit's going to be a split decision and he can easily lose that fight, right? Is he going to be smart and maybe take away the lead leg and, you know, implement some grappling and some clinch control and some of the stuff he did in Cage Warriors, I believe he would be smart to do that. Will he do that? I don't know. Will he be successful with it? I don't know. I just feel like the intangibles are on Gary's side. I think the grappling is all Gary here. You know, he has 100% of the grappling upside here, basically, which is massive, right? And then I also think he can compete on the feet, right? He's very good at staying safe. And one thing Michael Page won't do is if you don't engage him, he won't really engage you. The way he styled on Kevin Holland, because Kevin Holland's a fucking lunatic and he just wanted to go straight at Michael Page and fight him at, you know, at his own game. Gary won't do that. Gary's going to compete on the feet here, and he's got the grappling upside, and he's got the trajectory upside, and the intangible upside. So I think all of that into the pot makes Gary a favorite for me, but I'm very excited to see it. I will be rooting for Michael Page as a Londoner, unless I end up betting on Gary. But overall, I think Gary's going to get it done.
I'm on the Gary side. I like Gary a lot in this spot. I just think it's another spot of a situation of almost a perfect storm where the bias is on the Michael Venom Page side. Yeah. And he closed as a dog against Holland. He looked great against him. Everybody was talking about what a phenomenal performance, just how amazing he looked. And then on the Ian Gary side, he's coming off a unanimous decision against Magny, then a split decision against Neal. It's like even a little of the shine has come off the kid. Yeah. Even though he's undefeated. And I loved hearing at the press conference when he was like, he's not even excited about Michael Venom Page. Like, he's not even getting up for it. Dude, that's the best thing you could hear. You rest assured he's up for this fight. Yeah. Like, him acting like he doesn't care means he cares. Like, whenever a fighter acts like this ain't a big deal for me, like, believe me, he's focused. And everything I've heard about Ian Gary, I actually saw him at the Apex 2 days ago with his team. And he had just worked out and stuff. And the one thing I've heard about him is behind the scenes is he's really smart, like a really high IQ, high intelligent guy. So as far as that goes, I don't think he's going to make too many foolish mistakes. Yeah. Like, if this is the kind of kid that's going to be prepared, may say he doesn't watch film, but probably watched 18,000 minutes of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he's not going to give you the satisfaction of thinking that he did, but I'm sure he did because he's just that kind of dude. Yeah. Again, like you said, 11 years younger. Those guys just blindly win 2 out of 3 times. 2 out of 3. And 6 out of 10 times they win inside the distance. That's going back like 20 years. That's a big sample size. And then with Page, again, he's got that reach advantage. That's the only thing that worries me. He's got that 5-inch reach advantage, and that's something Gary usually has on guys. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That's the one thing that worries me a little. I'd have been betting a lot bigger, but I just think we're getting him at a discount. Dude, his average closing line is -420 for Ian Gary. And that's against opponents who won 67% of their fights. So against good guys, like at least cumulative record, he's averaging -420 favorite. And now you're getting him below -200 against Michael Venom Page. I like the Gary side.
I'm just so first of all, I want to retape it. I did mention that. I really do want to do more due diligence on this fight because I was a little bit rushed. Second of all, if my bias is confirmed to where I'm more on the Gary side, I'm just debating whether I want to play Gary moneyline or play points or split it. So I don't know.
How would you split it?
I would probably go maybe to win 2% on the money line and then put a unit on the plus money points bet, because then if Gary wins, I'm 2%, I'm 1% up.
Got you.
If he wins by decision, which I expect him to, you're talking like 4% or some shit, you know. So I'm happy to win 1%, and then I only lose 3%, which is my actual flat stake. Usually is 3%. So anyway, I'm still deciding now. Do you have any opinion on the points versus money line, or not too much?
No, honestly, I don't think I'm good enough to predict outcomes. I really don't. Like, even with all sports. Yeah. Like, that's why I'm just being honest. That's why I stopped even really watching them. The only sport I really watch is MMA because I enjoy it on top of it. But I'm not watching it, writing notes, or trying to think that I'm going to learn something that I'm going to bet next time. If anything, the only thing I'm going to take advantage of is that recency bias, stuff that has to do with the market. I just don't think like I know enough to see something that's going to help me find an edge in the sports book. If you could do that, stick to it and keep doing that. Like, you have a gift that you could do it, do it. I just don't, I'm not good enough to see those things. And that's why I don't really watch the other sports. But like a perfect example, I bet baseball every single day this season. I haven't watched an inning of a baseball game.
Yeah.
Like it really doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I don't watch any sport that I bet on, and I bet on like 5 sports outside of MMA.
See,
because I love MMA.
That's what
but also because I do tape on it.
That's a good thing that you do it like that. That you do it like that. But that's for me. I just think the Gary side looks to be the right side to me. I think the trajectory also of careers. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's
I think it's the tail end of Venom Page's career, and I think Gary's on the trajectory to be a world champion. I really do.
Yeah, I could see it. And you know, he's got a lot of hate, which is sometimes feeds into.
I love that. I talked about that on the line the other day. It's the Mayweather effect, dude. I was here for a decade where you could have made free money on Mayweather. He only fought in Las Vegas. Anyone that lived here knew that before the fight started, he was up 9 rounds.
Yeah,
already he was up 9 rounds. So you are not beating him unless you're knocking Mayweather out. The best defensive boxer of all time. Good luck with that. That's not going to happen. So he was a lock every single time, more or less. And yet, bettors lined up to bet against him. Fans came to watch him lose. I watched it over and over and over again. They were doing it against Marquez, against everyone. They were betting him against Mayweather.
He was minus 400 against Conor McGregor.
That's what I'm telling you.
Minus 400.
That's what I'm saying.
He wins 8 out of 10.
It's the Mayweather
McGregor wins
effect.
2 out of 10.
And I'm seeing it now with Gary, where fans are paying to want him to lose.
Yeah.
Like they're watching him fights, wanting to lose. Believe me, the betting market will reflect that. It will.
I feel like it has this time
sure.
out.
I think so too. I think that win or lose, I think you're getting a discounted price on Ian Gary against Michael Venom Page. Because again, what do we know about Page? You know, his Bellator experience, his UFC experience, he got 1 fight.
Yeah. It is a different ball game. I don't think it's going to affect Page mentally in that regard.
No, because he's got so many fights.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that's the problem.
It's going to be a great fight, though. Well, it could be
there are levels. I mean, you know.
Yeah. He's fought some good fighters in Bellator, but it's not the same level as UFC. This is probably is it the best fighter he's fought? I mean, he's fought Douglas Lima. This is probably the best fighter he's fought, man. Like, and people are going to call me crazy for that. Oh, Gary's not better than Lima. Gary's better than Lima, man. Gary's better than Lima in his prime.
That's what I was going to say.
Gary's better than Holland. Gary's better than fucking Goiti.
He is. No one's good.
Gary's better than Logan Storley. Gary is the best fighter MVP has ever fought, and call me crazy.
100%.
That's what I believe. So, you know.
100%.
And by the way, MVP is the best fighter Gary's fought, and that's why it's an intriguing matchup, and that's why a lot of people are on opposite sides. So the next fight is MBS Bueno Silva versus Macy Chesson. We can go through this one quickly. I think it's a very close fight, Yanni. I think both fighters have outs to win the fight. Ultimately, I feel like MBS should be a slight favorite, and the reason I believe that is because I think she has like 90% of the finishing upside here. Can Chesson finish? I think she probably can, but very, very small amount of time she finishes, where I think MBS can finish like just very, very consistently. I think if these girls fight 50 times, I think MBS is finishing like fucking so many of them times. I don't know exactly, right? She's finishing a lot. Front choke series is good. Armbar is good. Macy Chesson puts herself in submissions all the time. Even in the last fight that she lost, Bueno Silva, she had so many positions on Rocky Pennington that she probably would finish against against Macy, which is like the back control. She had her back many times, rear naked chokes, locked in, etc., etc. So
why do you think so much money came in on Macy?
Because the line was completely wide, you know, like Macy Chesson at plus 180 is ridiculous because I believe that this fight is fairly close to 50-50. Like I said, I would make Myra a slight favorite.
Right,
so
right.
You're talking minus 130s, you know, minus 125s, minus 135s, minus 140s if you want to push it. But, you know, when you get a plus 180 I just see this fight as a very, very close fight. But the reason, so that this fight is like pick 'em to me. And then the reason I move it to minus 130s, 40s is because of that finishing upside and because of the lack of fight IQ or positional IQ of Macy Chesson in the wrestling, in the grappling, which this fight will take place in a little bit. So, yeah, that's my fight. I think Bueno Silva is going to submit her, but there's no way I would play I wouldn't play a money line at Pick'em, even if I'm saying it's minus 130. I don't think there's enough value there. And this is something very important, Yanni, I want to speak about as well, actually. How do you feel about this? Because I think that confidence in your read is so important as well, because everyone is always forced to pick a percentage or a line, right? No. What's your percentage of this fight? You're saying that she should be minus 140. So you need to bet minus 110.
Yeah.
Relax. I think she should be minus 140. I guess I'm not that confident in my read. I don't really know, right? we're bettors. We don't have to line every fight. Bookmakers have to line every fight. We don't have to. So I think that's very important as well, because people will hear me say, you know, she should be minus 140. And then they'll literally message me saying, wow, like, you don't what? You're not betting her minus 110 when you think she should be minus 140. Maybe I'm not super confident in my read. Maybe I don't really want to put my money on this spot. Maybe I don't trust her to be minus 140, even though I have to make a prediction, because that's how I bet. I make lines,
but
right?
Other than determining it by closing line value, you'll never even really know.
Yeah, like, you don't know.
You know what I mean?
You don't know after one fight.
Yeah, that's the difference.
So yeah, like, yeah, I guess there's some value if you really breaking it down T by T, but this for me is just like, it's just a pass on the money lines. I do think she's going to get submitted though. What do you think?
You think Chesson gets submitted?
I do think so, yeah.
You do?
Well, that's my outright prediction, but yeah, I don't know.
Man,
what do
she's
you
got
think?
that long reach against her. You think? I don't know. Bueno Silva, here's the problem. She's been profitable, and her losses only come against top girls. I think that her losses come against, what is that? 70% winning.
Who, Macy?
No, Myra.
Yeah.
Tough out. And only one in her last 5 fights, only one time did she not reward her bettors. Like, so she's tough to fade, especially now that this line, now that it's down to where this line is, I think it's the only way you can look at it, more or less. Like, again, at minus 200, I understand, like you said, why all the money came in on Chesson. But now, as the line has dropped, I could see the argument on the Bueno Silva side. I moved for one of the groups that did bet the Chesson side.
Yeah, good bet.
And I take a percentage of it, like 130, I think.
Oh, okay.
120, yeah, plus 130, was it?
Yeah.
125, maybe even lesser, I think. It was close. It was close to even money.
Okay.
I was a little surprised that they came in late. But they do a lot. What I've learned is a lot of these betting syndicates, because that's what I do. I get down for them. And what happens is they're even willing to take a worse line to get more money down.
Yeah, of course. That's what I have to do.
I know one guy that's actually one of the most profitable sports bettors in Las Vegas, by far. There's at least 3 properties that he's won the most money at in their sports book. He bets a lot of the stuff like 20 minutes before game time, 5 minutes before fight time. He's like, because I just can't get enough money down. Like the amounts that he needs to bet, he's like, I'd rather take a worse line. I bet less volume because I find less edges.
If it's still an edge, it's still an edge.
Exactly.
If the market's still inefficient, it's still inefficient.
That's what he says. That's what he says. You know, you guys are chasing to bet it early. You know, there's just as much value late sometimes too.
Yeah, to be honest, it's like a contradiction for me. It's not a contradiction. I don't know a word for it, but it's sometimes strange because I do get down early because it's important to beat line movement, and you know I do like to play my position early, and I also tip. Right, I have a betting service. I tip in service. So like the money that 99% of my subscribers get down is not the money I get down. So they don't have to abide by the same rules as me.
Exactly.
I have to wait until game day sometime to get money down if I really want to get money down. But my subscribers don't, right? Because they ain't got as much money as me. That's just a fact, right? That's probably why they follow me, right? Because I've made a lot of money from sports betting. So it's like I'm tipping out these lines early a lot of the time because I also get down early as well. But sometimes I'm have to wait on a worse line. And sometimes I cause that worse line by betting it early. And it's like, fuck, like I should have waited. But then if I do wait, if my prediction is correct and it's a bad line, it's going to go down anyway by someone else. So it's like, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah, it's
every
like
day weighing that shit.
Yeah, it's just weird. But, you know, that's the reality of the situation. And, you know, unless I want to like burn a couple of accounts, I can't get massive money down early. But if I really like something at a line and I really don't want it to go to waste, like Peyton Talbot against Simon, I just burnt like 4 or 5 accounts just by getting money down. Like,
really?
Yeah, they'll just ban you after that bet because then they're like, oh, I know who this guy is now.
Right.
This is too much money. This was smart. You got in a minus 110, it closed minus 170. Fuck you now. We're going to limit you to $250. So I lost 5 accounts, but I still get to earn the money from that account. So that's, anyway, this is going off a tangent, but it's a game that you have to play oftentimes with sports betting. So yeah, that's my prediction for the fight. I do think
you got Bueno Silva.
I think she's going to get subbed, but I also believe that Macy's probably going to win the minutes. Someone said it earlier here, and this is something we have to deal with in MMA a lot. This is the classic minute winner versus moment winner.
Wow, so, great point.
Yeah, Bueno Silva's probably going to win moment. She's going to get tight submissions.
Yes.
Maybe she doesn't get them. Maybe she doesn't tap, or maybe she does. But maybe they win it around because you've got a submission locked in, right? We have to remember, people forget this. Close submission attempts, when they're very tight and stuff, they can win you the round, right? Especially if it's a close round. But Macy's probably going to be throwing a bit more volume. She's going to be landing a bit higher clips. She's going to be shooting a bit more takedowns. So, you know, it's going to be a close fight. But yeah. What else we got?
Wow, Anthony Smith, Roman Dolidze.
So this fight, Yanni, I hope you can take it away.
I bet it.
Oh, okay, great. Great. Because, you know, I mentioned this yesterday on a BTL Beat the Line podcast. You guys can go and watch that on YouTube. I said that this is a fight. This is a rare fight for me in which I'm not even going to tape this fight. And I never do that. I hardly ever skip fights because you never know what edge you're going to find in tape. Many times I'll think I'm not going to have a bet on this fight. And after tape, I'm like, wow, I'm going to have a bet on this fight, right? But
real quickly, so what do you watch like the last 2 or 3 fights of each guy?
I'll do the recent fights because it's important to know how they've looked recently. But it's a case-by-case basis because if they've only fought strikers recently and now they're fighting a wrestler, I don't really give a shit about that, right?
You're going to go look for...
I'll go back 5 years if that's the last time they fought a wrestler.
Gotcha.
So it's based on recency and stylistics.
Awesome.
So I didn't take this fight because I know this fight as well. It's minus 110 on like minus 110 on the money line and on the over-under. So it just tells me that no one knows what the fuck's going to happen in this fight. And, you know, you got a take on it. So that's great. I'm keen to hear your take. But personally, I'm just avoiding this fight. I don't want to have money on this fight. And, yeah, that's just how I feel about it.
This is one of those spots where, again, it's just taking advantage of the Anthony Smith coming off that big win. Everyone counted him out in that fight.
Yeah, everybody.
He was
plus
counted
400
out.
Or something.
That's crazy. What I'm saying. And money was coming in against him too. So it's like sharp bettors nobody thought he was going to win that fight. And he won that fight. Usually when that happens, there's going to be some line shaded against them. And I think it's, again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but this is actually what I look for in all sports. I look for the perfect storm. And you have it here with Dolidze coming off 2 losses. But again, zoom out a little bit, and what do you see? It's a guy that's actually 4-2 over his last 6. Like, you know, and he's 6-3 in the UFC overall against opponents that won over 63% of their fights. I just think this is you're looking towards the end of Anthony, even though the talk of Anthony Smith talking about title and all that. Yeah. I think the best years behind him. Yeah. And and I do think he's going to get his chin's going to get tested by Dolidze here. I think Dolidze finishes him. I really do. And actually, who was saying that? Oh, no. What's his name? Anthony Smith doesn't get finished like that. No, I think he does. I think he has been knocked out, right? They're going to let us know how many times there if he has. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure.
Glover finished him with ground and pound, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. No. He's been finished.
I don't know about on handful of times. Oh, he got knocked out by Khalil Roundtree like 2 fights ago.
That's what I'm saying. I couldn't understand that argument that, no, he's so durable.
He's durable, but he's been knocked out recently. And
I like Dolidze. I think he bounces back. I bet against him in his last fight. That was a nice bet.
Look at that, Uncle Weezy. Shout out to Uncle Weezy. KO'd 11 times as a pro.
There you go. Thank you, Weezy. Thank you. That's what I saw. Then when someone argued it, I was like, did I just not see something?
Yeah, I think he's shown toughness, right? He's known to be tough and stuff.
Right. He's got heart. And
he got into decision with John Jones.
Right.
He got beat badly against Glover the Sheriff for 5 rounds. He didn't quit and he got his tooth knocked out and stuff. So his name's Lionheart. They're probably thinking of that. But at the end of the day, if he loses this fight, this is going to be his 20th professional loss. Like he's lost a lot of fights. I wouldn't be surprised if he lost. The only thing I've kind of looked at for
he's below a 60% winner in the UFC. You know what I mean?
So you like the under? Do you like the under, or you just think he's going to be finished? I think the under's about pick him.
Is that what it is?
It was minus 120 the last time I saw it.
It was 150 to the over. Now it's 125 to the under. So obviously there's some under money.
I kind of like under because I think both fighters are just volatile and you know they're both finishes really.
And finishes are behind so far this year. Decisions are up way ahead after I think.
You mean like compared to?
Yeah, like historically, it's 50-50. Believe it or not, right down the middle.
Yeah.
Like you look over the last 5,000 fights, it'll be close to 2,500 decisions, 2,500 inside the distance, almost close to 50-50.
More knockouts than subs, right?
Yeah. More knockouts than subs. And right now, though, decisions are ahead. They're ahead. Now, again, it regresses towards the mean over the long term. It's not like this week we're going to get a bunch of knockouts, but it always does that. You see that all the time. Like there was I think his last year when the favorites got way ahead, and then you just saw a couple dogs just really getting it done.
It's just you never know when it's going to happen, right?
When it's going to regress or progress.
So
exactly. Exactly.
It's due. It's due, but due
what
when?
does that mean? Yeah. Exactly. No, exactly. That's the thing. But I'm a little bit surprised. But you do get less finishes in the UFC. I mean, again, the higher, just like the higher, you always notice too, as they go up in strength of schedule, less finishes.
Yeah, of course.
Guys, they come into the UFC with they're 12-0 with 12 finishes. Then you see in the Contender Series, they go to decision.
Yeah. All the
it's
time.
The first time they stepped up against really tough guys.
Askarov, who was a flyweight guy, he came into the UFC 10-0, all finishes. He didn't get a finish in the UFC, and he fought like 7 times.
Exactly.
And he won most fights, right?
It's
so he was winning by decision,
it's just
though.
Different. You move up to that strength, those guys at that level that just knows are as good as you. Hard to finish.
We got 1,142 live viewers right now.
Thank you for your time.
1,000 people there, which is kind of crazy. Sometimes you think about it like that's 1,000 people watching live. So shout out to everyone here. I really appreciate it. And again, thanks, Gianni.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for coming on. And I know everyone's appreciating it because all the comments here now are super happy.
Thank you.
And you're someone saying slow internet. Like, I'm sorry about this, guys. I'm in an Airbnb. I can't control the internet. I know it's been laggy throughout. I apologize, but at least you got the content, right?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Co-main event.
Wow.
This is a banger. Brian will take a little bit. I've been going first every time, so I'll go first
Please
again.
Do.
Me personally, another money line that I don't really want to get involved with. And the reason for that is because, first of all, I want to say that I thought I was going to be on Ortega pre-tape, right? And this is why I always say tape is super important in MMA, at least for me, because oftentimes I will preface this by saying that 8 times out of 10, what I think before tape is actually what's confirmed post-tape. But those 2 times out of 10 could literally be the difference between profit and negative, right? Those 2 times out of 10 that I'm wrong. Because about 20% of the time, what I think I'm going to be on or what I'm thinking I'm going to like before tape is not what happens post-tape. So that happened this time, right, with this fight. I thought I was going to be on Ortega pre-tape, but post-tape, I'm like, I'm not going to bet Ortega as a slight dog. Now, I think the fight should be close to 50-50, but I think Diego Lopes has more big moment upside. And again, big moment is very hard to judge. How are you going to judge if he's going to land a knockdown or if he's going to get a tight submission? It's very hard to judge those things, right? You can judge minute winning. You can judge like who's going to shoot more takedowns or throw more volume because you have massive data to back it up. How many significant strikes do they land? You just watch the tape. This is guy a better striker or not? But for the most part, I don't know how to judge big moments. So I think Lopes is going to win a decision. That's my official prediction by having big moments, but I think it's going to be a very close fight. I think it's actually going to be a war, and I'm super excited for it. If anything, I lean to the over. If anything, I lean to the Lopes side. But to be honest, if I was actually making a bet, Yanni, even though I'm leaning to the Lopes side, I probably would bet Ortega. Because he's dog. His level of competition is way higher, and I think that Lopes needs the big moments, and I am predicting him to get those big moments, but I don't think Ortega does. I think Ortega can win it coherently. So I think he can win it with grappling. I think he can win it with like more volume and outboxing on the feet. I think Lopes needs those big moments, and yes, I am predicting those big moments, but it's hard to fucking predict, right? He might just not land a knockdown, and then he loses the round. So yeah, Lopes for me, decision, but man, this is fucking could go either way. Super excited for it.
Could you scroll up? Someone asked a question that I have to address, please.
A
little higher.
One. Lopes.
No, a little higher.
Higher.
I saw it. Yeah, there it is. Yanni, if you were walking by that one, please. If you were walking by a blackjack table and seen that 5 reds came up in a row, would you bet black? Well, blackjack tables don't have red and black. That's a roulette table you were talking about, not a blackjack table. So yes, if I was walking by a roulette table where they have that big sign that shows you the last 20, 30 rolls, if I saw 5 reds come up in a row, no, I would not go and bet black because each roll is independent of the other. Roulette tables don't have memory unless it's a biased wheel, which is so rare you won't find them. But just if other than that, roulette doesn't have memory. So each roll is independent. Even if I saw 15 reds in a row, I wouldn't go bet black. Yeah. That's not what regression to the mean means. The difference is what you're talking about, blackjack. Now, blackjack has memory. That's why it becomes a beatable game. Let's say we're playing double deck blackjack. You know, there's 8 aces in the deck. If 6 of them come out in the first 2 hands, the first 2 go arounds, then what do we know? The probability of getting blackjack is almost 0, right? There's only 2 aces left. There's 5 players, what have you. So your chances of getting a blackjack are very slim. That's why blackjack is beatable. That's a game with memory. Roulette doesn't have memory, so it will not regress to the mean. To answer your question, I don't know if they were joking or if they're being wise asses, but
there you go.
It's a no. You don't bet red just because you saw 5 black. Sorry.
So
Diego Lopes and Ortega. Listen, Ortega opened the -150 favorite. So the money came in within 30 minutes. It was down to -120. And I understand it. I mean, all the hype behind Diego Lopes, even though he lost his first, 2 fights, you saw the UFC get behind him in a big way. Yeah. Big push. You know what they're doing with the UFC in Mexico. Yeah. You know the Performance Institute. You know they're trying to push it down there in a big way. And this kid's perfect for that. So, again, I'm not surprised to see money come in on him also. He's popular and all of that. But I can't fade Ortega in this spot. I don't think Ortega's going to win. I tell you, I think Diego Lopes, Ortega just takes too much punishment.
Yeah, fair enough. That's kind of why.
And you can only take so much. Like it starts to accumulate. And again, as tough as you are, you can only absorb so much before it's easier and easier to get your lights turned down. And I think that's the negative on the Ortega side. The positive on the Ortega side is he's money as a dog. I mean, he's been a dog 6 times. He's cashed for you 5 of those. So when he's expected to win, he does the exact opposite. So it's not a guy I'm going to fade lightly, meaning you got to have some conviction. I don't really have that on Lopes other than that, meaning his level of competition, decent, but small sample of fights they've had. Like they haven't been experienced guys. This is an experienced guy.
The ones who was experienced, he lost to.
Yeah.
He lost to both of them.
Yes, that's what
he's 0-2.
Yes. This is an experienced guy. This is a guy that's been in there with the top at featherweight.
Yeah.
Like
consistently. Time and time again.
Every time he was thrown in the deep end. His overall opponent's record are 104, 27, 37-2. They've won almost 75% of their fights.
Yeah.
So this is a kid that got thrown into the deep end, and he's won 8 of 12 of those. One of them was a no contest. So more or less, he's 8-3.
Do you have that for Lopes? The win and loss of his opponents?
Yeah, for Lopes, a combined 21-5. So his losses come against guys that are combined 6-0. Those 2 losses. Yeah. Okay. So they were undefeated guys. And his wins against 15-5. So it is guys that at least won fights. You know what I mean? They just don't have the experience. Like, look at Ortega's. His losses come against guys that have over 100 combined fights in the UFC and won over 70% of them, just about. Like,
and if we're looking at the stylistics, right? Let's see this 3-fight win streak.
That's what I wanted to hear. Your style is Lopes just too much power and Ortega taking too much punishment, or could Ortega sub him? Could Ortega take that back or jump on something? I think.
I honestly think anything can happen in this fight. And I know it's like a cop-out answer, but it is one of those fights that's highly volatile because both fighters are dangerous in their respective disciplines. But at the end of the day, like what I was going to say is the 3-fight win streak that Lopes has gone on. He fought Gavin Tucker, which I bet him there, -140, right? I bet him, and he submitted him in like 2 minutes. Gavin Tucker was coming off major ACL surgery. He was getting older. He hadn't performed that well in the UFC, to be honest. He was like 3-3 or some shit, right? 3-2. And he had been finished and hurt multiple times in the UFC already. And he was coming off like a 2-year layoff, right? Let's just be honest, right? I bet on him there for a reason. The next fight he had against Pat Sabatini, I bet on him again, -120 or some shit, right? He finished him in a minute as well. But Pat Sabatini does not have a great chin. And if he cannot grapple you, he ain't going to compete well on the feet. And he didn't grapple Lopes, and he just got caught on the feet early. The next fight he had was his most impressive win, which is against Sadiq Youssef. But Sadiq Youssef has been wobbled a couple of times, and I've not believed in Sadiq's chin for a while, right? So let me tell you something now. Ortega does not have those holes of the last 3 fighters that he fought. Ortega has a rock chin, and it's very hard to submit Ortega. I think Ortega is a very good jiu-jitsu player, and it's going to be surprising to see him get submitted. I do think Lopes is like a bit more dangerous with the submissions, but I think Ortega has an overall more coherent game. I think he's got a much better wrestler. Top time upside is on his side. Like he could lay on top of Diego Lopes and probably stay safe. Whereas I don't think Lopes is going to lay on top of him because I think Ortega will be able to get back to his feet. So Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to this fight, right? I could speak about this fight for hours, and oftentimes when I could speak about a fight for so long, usually I don't have a strong take.
Right.
Because I'm just telling you everything,
argue
right?
both sides,
exactly, right? So, and that's how I feel about this fight. But ultimately, I just think it's a fight that you probably stay away from on the money line, or just take the dog based on like all the big intangibles on his side. Massive hype on Lopes at this point in his career, man. And I always want to fade hype. So, you know, if anything, there's hype on Lopes and not Ortega. So I guess Ortega's the side. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, for me, again, I don't mean to make it, it's not simple, but what I mean is when I see a fighter like Diego Lopes, who's won 3 straight fights, all 3 of them in the first round. I think all 3 of them were performance bonuses as well, or at least 2 out of 3 of them are performance bonuses. And he's getting the kind of hype that he's getting. I just know going in, I don't know whether I'm just cynical or what, but I know I'm not getting the best of it. I don't expect to walk into the casino and that the sportsbook is going to give me this kid at a discount. Like, I don't expect them to let me bet him at a decent price.
Yeah.
Like, I always expect to go in and have a premium attached to him. And then I got to decide, is he good enough to overcome that added price? Like, I know, like it happens in football all the time where I know I'm paying a half point more, 1.5 points more because of how good they looked last week. But they may be able to overcome that extra 1.5 points. I'm not saying Diego Lopes can't overcome that added bias, but it's there. I mean, you saw what the odds makers thought. They opened it at Ortega winning this fight 6 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
It's the market that disagreed. It's we are the ones that decide where it's going to close. And within 30 minutes, it went down to -120. So it was the market that said, no, Lopes. So a lot of that could have been also a lot of that recency bias.
Yeah, probably.
A lot of the hype behind it.
Yeah.
A lot of expecting the market to move in that direction. You know, only down. I mean, you wouldn't expect Ortega money to move. I wouldn't, when him opened to 150, I would think the probability of it going down was a lot greater to go to Ortega to -200.
Yeah, because it's a close fight.
Over Lopes.
It's a close fight over anyway. Like, obviously there's hype on him, but I just really feel like the side in this fight is probably the plus money side. And that's just like,
I think it's the better bet. Ortega's a better bet.
Yeah.
He'll probably win the fight.
That's what I'm predicting. Which is funny because Ortega's only a slight dog. So for us to say that, it just shows you how close it is, right?
It is.
We're not saying the slight dog's a better bet. We're not saying the plus 300 dog's a better bet, but Lopes is going to win. We're saying the slight dog is a better bet, but the other side's going to win. There's not a lot of wiggle room there.
No,
right? So
no. If I have a bet on the fight, it will be on Ortega.
Yeah, I just think plus money's a side. Honestly, if Lopes was plus money, I'd be talking about Lopes up now.
Exactly. If it's a coin flip,
it seems like a fair coin flip.
Yes. So any plus money is what I'd grab. I haven't bet it. I probably won't. It's one I'm going to enjoy watching. I'll probably have a little action just because it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, I actually said that because I'm going to the fights. I'm going to have a bet on every single fight.
Have to.
Yeah,
it's
just
like
for
fun.
Horse track. Yeah, just for fun. Like, I'm not gonna put bets somewhere I'm gonna blow my actual big bankroll. But
when I
I'm
go,
gonna fuck around.
That's what I do. I have to
just fuck around, man.
You have to.
I did a tweet earlier and I was like, sports betting police, don't fucking come at me now. But I'm not caring about value or EV. By the way, I think there's value on every fight. I think post fight we find that there's always a value side, right? There is like it's never because we're talking about props, right?
Right.
I don't think it's ever where like every single line, because you're talking about like 20 lines the bookmaker has to put out, right? I don't think it's ever where every single line is like neutral with the EV.
No,
I think there's always at least 1 or 2 lines where it's plus EV. But
100%.
Obviously, it's not plus EV to be betting every fight, right? It's stupid. But I'm just having a little fun while I'm in Vegas. So
hell yeah,
we'll
try
see.
to predict some winners.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what we end up on. But yeah, I don't know. So next fight is main event, man. Alex Pereira versus Prochazka. I don't have too much to say about this one, Gianni. No,
I bet it.
Okay, I think it's similar to the last fight, co-main event, where I think it's a very close fight. I think it's a volatile fight. But I'm actually I lean to the Jiri side here, right? I lean to the underdog. I lean to Jiri. And the reason I lean to Jiri is because, again, post-tape. So pre-tape is quite interesting because pre-tape, I thought I was going to be on Pereira or at least like Pereira. Post-tape, I like Jiri because I just forgot how the last fight went. And the last fight, actually, Jiri was winning the entire fight. The only thing Alex was doing
all the judges gave him the first round.
Yeah, he won 10-9 on all 3 judges' scorecards, and that was based on grappling. All the grappling upside is on the Jiri side here, unless maybe he gets like a guillotine because Alex Pereira had a guillotine locked in at one point, and maybe Jiri shoots down and he gets guillotined. It could happen, but 95% of the grappling upside is on Jiri here. Jiri has shot takedowns in the UFC. Did shoot a takedown against Pereira last time. Did do some damage on top when he shot him down and took him down. But Pereira did get back up to his feet, and he also was winning on the feet. He was landing the better shots. The only thing Pereira was doing consistently was the leg kicks, right? He actually took out Jiri's calf. Jiri had to switch stance in that fight. And that is something worth mentioning, right? But outside of the calf kicks, which is a massive point, so I don't just want to gloss over it, calf kicks are Alex's big weapon outside of the left hook, right? So if you can take a calf away, the whole trajectory of the fight can change, right? So I'm not going to gloss over it. But outside of that, Jiri had all the moments in the fight. He was building. In my opinion, he has better cardio. And, man, Jiri's just volatile, man. Anytime you get Jiri at an underdog price is maybe a decent bet. So I think Jiri's the side here. I think he avenges his loss. But it's way too volatile for me to bet. I wouldn't make him a big favorite. I would make him minus 115, minus 120, minus 120, but he's plus 120 or something. So, you know, Jiri for me is probably the side, but I'm passing personally. Who you on?
And that's where Jiri opened last time. Pereira actually opened the underdog in that first fight. He closed as a slight favorite, but he was the dog. Listen, Pereira's just become overnight a sensation.
Yeah, star.
Over his last 2-3 fights, he's just blown up. But you can't overlook the fact he's 37 years old.
Yeah.
You're at the tail end of your career at that point.
Yeah.
Any way you look at it. Jiri's what, 31? I mean, coming into his own in the UFC now. I mean, his only loss is what? That loss to Pereira, which personally, I didn't even have either guy in that fight.
Neither did I.
And I thought it was an early stoppage.
Yeah, it was a weird one.
I thought they could have went a little like.
It was hard for me to see, but I even watched it on the replay and I was like,
was he out?
It was weird.
It was just strange, right?
It got straight back up, but he did drop backwards, which was is a weird way to fall.
Yes.
I understand why the referee stopped it.
Sure,
because they are actually taught. I've heard Herb Dean speak about it, where the way they fall, that's why they stop it.
They're there to protect the fighter.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get it.
But it could be argued that it was early.
And rarely am I going to fade the champ unless I'm, confident in the, the champ successfully defends more times than not. Also, we have a rematch. The winner of the first tends to win the second. So there's some trends there to like on the Pereira side. But I think the age difference coupled with the fact that the adjustment made off that first fight, I don't think is warranted. Like, meaning if it closed like I said, he opened as a dog, it closed as a slight favorite. But now it went up to where he opened here at minus 150, where now all of a sudden he wins 6 out of 10 times. I just don't think you could draw that conclusion off that first fight. Like you said, Jiri won round 1. Again, it doesn't say nothing. You get knocked out in round 2. You could win all 4 rounds, get knocked out in the 5th. It doesn't mean anything. Tell Volkov that against what's it called?
Derek Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone brings that. I was actually there for that. That was crazy. And I had the Derek Lewis side. So
great cash.
That was only one of the few cashes that night, I think, if I remember correctly. But so I really do like the Jiri side. I think just value alone. I love when I place a bet and truthfully, where I say I don't care who wins, I'm going to sleep comfortably knowing I placed a good bet.
Yeah.
Where even if I lose this bet, if they were going to fight again tomorrow, I would do it again. I would bet it again. Like, I like to have that feeling about my bets, where even if I lose, to know that, you know what, I do it again. I do it again.
Yeah.
This is one of those spots where I feel even if I lost, I'd be like, I'd bet Jiri again at this dog price against Pereira. I think they were that close that it can't be worse than a coin flip. If anything, I think it's more like you said, where he's a favorite, a slight favorite of minus 120, 125.
I would make him that. Based on the first fight.
Yes. So that's where I think I'm confident I'm getting the best of it. And for me, that's the most I could ever hope for. Like, getting the win is great. But if I do this every day over and over again, so my goal is to get the best of it. Like, and what changed my life, I'm going to tell you guys real quickly, going to share this story. I wasn't able to win, even though I had winning information, until I saw the long term in real time. And here's what happened. I started working with a card counting group in blackjack. And in blackjack, I could play if I find a good fast dealer, I could play a double deck. I could get 200 hands an hour in playing one-on-one. So in 4 hours, I could get 800 bets. In 5 days, I could get 4,000 bets. In 1 month, what's that? 16,000 bets. For me to make 16,000 sports bets, it's going to take years.
Yeah.
But what happened was, by making those bets in blackjack, what I saw was, as long as we did the right thing, meaning we always made the correct play, which is hit, stand, double, or split, depending on what your hand is, what the dealer's hand is, and what's in the discard tray. That's it. If you're counting cards, those are the only factors that matter. Anyway, to make a long story short, I was able to see the long term in real time. That as long as we bet size correctly, never deviated from what the count said to bet, and we followed the rules, there was nothing that the house can do but pay us. Like after so many hands, we were going to be up. Like after 500 hands, we weren't in a lock. After 1,000 hands, we weren't in a lock. Even after 2,000 hands, we weren't in a lock a lot of times. But once we got the 4,000 or 5,000 hands, there was no way they were going to be up on us. Zero chance. So as long as the team had enough, was funded well enough to get the 4,000 or 5,000 hands, there was no way we were not going to double that bank. That's how this group that I worked with played it. They'd get a bank, they doubled it, then they dispersed the bank. And that they were so on top of every time we went back to the room, you had to give them all your chips, the hours, all that. They plugged it into a program, which then let them know where you were within what standard deviation of where you should have been. So they'll know instantly by looking at your results, did you make any mistakes? Did you overbet? Did you underbet? And I promise you, if you do the right thing, you got to just do the right thing over and over and over again. So not to go off, but that's how I feel about this Prochazka bet, where I feel I'm getting the best of it. I'm doing the right thing. So win or lose, I just have to repeat that process of getting plus 120 when I shouldn't. Yeah. And I'll be up. And, history at least has proven that for me based on, documented results. So I'm betting Prochazka, win or lose. If you bet Pereira and I'm wrong, God bless you. I hope you enjoy that money. I'm off. But I'm betting Yuri with confidence, baby.
Good luck, man. If I end up betting on that fight, because I said I'm going to have a bet on every single fight, it will be the Jiri side.
What about the total? Give me the total. Hold on. Give me your answer.
So
this is one and a half. What, the over now, like what, 170?
No, I wouldn't bet it. I wouldn't bet it because I think it's going to finish mid-second round. So then how can I bet the under 1.5, right? So I guess, what would you say then I should bet the under because it's plus money, but I'm bet. It's not my style. Like
I love it.
It's not big enough. It's not big enough.
Good.
If it was plus 200, maybe. But if I'm predicting, I'm predicting around probably mid to late second half. So I'm saying it goes over, right? But the over's minus 170 and the under's plus 140. So you know what? To be honest, I'm probably saying it's accurate. I've reckoned minus 170. It's on the number. It's literally, it could be perfect.
That's a lot of times that's the case. That's the goal of the book, right? Yeah. If you ask any bookmaker, what's your goal? They're going to say two things. They want to split the money or split the result. Yeah. Meaning if they could get 50-50 money on each side, they got the built-in edge, 4.5%, 5%, they're going to guarantee profit. Or if they could split the result, meaning at this point spread, team A wins 50% of the time, team B wins 50% of the time. So if you got to lay 110 to win 100, you ain't getting an edge either way. That's the goal. If they can do that, they're going to keep profiting. And what you said was awesome earlier. We don't have to line every fight. Yeah. Our ability to say pass is one of the greatest assets that we don't take advantage of enough as bettors. Yeah. We need action when we shouldn't have it a lot of times. Being selective is one of our greatest strengths. Yeah, it's a constant battle. But what I do like is an alternate total. So obviously you can't get this on certain books because you need certain books to get it, but alternate totals, right? So we get 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. And the 2.5 rounds is market wide about minus 160, minus 150. And I actually like that a lot. I think 2.5 rounds is well enough. I don't think you need any more than 2.5 rounds. And I'm happy to pay 60% implied or whatever it is, for 2.5. So you're saying 12.5 minutes above that. But I'm not happy to play the 7.5 minutes. I think it's too risky because I am predicting mid to late second round. Yeah. Which is what happened last time. Play the alternate round. Yeah. That makes sense. I like the alternate, if anything, under 2.5. I bet the under 2.5 in the first fight. And the under 2.5 in the second fight is also a good bet in my opinion. So that's it, Yanni, man. We've done the whole card with a bunch of tangents as well. So, and we've done it under 2 hours, man. So 1 hour, 43 minutes. I'll take it. Thanks for coming here. You've dropped so much game on the people, so I appreciate it. I'm sure the people know. Tell the people where to find you. I'm sure they know where to find you. I was peeking every time on occasion on the comments. I love you guys. Even the ones that disagree with me, even the ones that don't like you, I appreciate your time and the fact that you're watching and even disagreeing. You shouldn't agree with everything. You should have your own opinion. So I always tell people, I don't take it personally ever when people disagree with me. You should disagree with me. So thank you. But I appreciate your time. Honestly, I appreciate the comments. I love you guys to death. The MMA freaking community is amazing. Seriously, I've met NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, nothing like the MMA community, especially the bettors and just all the characters. So if you're at Expo tomorrow, make sure you say hello. I'm going to be over there doing a show live, doing the Gambler's Perspective live from their Radio Row, I think. I don't know, one of those places we're doing it. And yeah, I'll be there probably from noon on. Make sure you say hello, stop by, and check me out at Greek_Gambler on Twitter, Instagram, you know, all that stuff. I don't really do it myself. Someone else does. So don't take it personally if I don't get back to somebody, you know, quickly. But yeah, I try to post a lot of free shit for you guys. Free stuff, sorry.
I've been seeing a couple of your
I told you,
videos
someone's doing
on
that for me.
Instagram.
Yeah, someone's doing it for me now.
Good.
Yeah,
the
that's
ones
why.
on Instagram.
I got someone doing it for me.
I need to, yeah. They was getting a lot of comments, a lot of retweets and stuff on Instagram.
I said if I knew I'd get that much love for losing, I'd have lost a long time ago. I had a video that I think I went 0-3 that got like 900,000 views.
Yeah, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
on Instagram as well. That's nuts.
yeah. So they loved it. They loved to comment and just bash. I live for it. You know that it's fun.
No dark without light, bro. You need the hate because then it makes the love more. I'm just
not used to I'm not from that generation that pulls out their phone.
Yeah, neither
so I'm
am
just
I.
not used to it. And I do a lot of cool shit.
Yeah.
And that's what most people are like, dude. Like even the UFC got mad at me in the beginning. I didn't have an Instagram. So I was working the UFC and they're like, you need an Instagram, you need social media.
Yeah, it's important.
And I'm not used to this. I just not used to pulling out my phone. So, but now I got my girl doing it.
Yeah, that's what you need, man.
That's what you need.
That's why I got the team. You met my man in the back. So
exactly.
He helps me with the content.
And he's going to remember when you're doing something to pull out that phone. That's cool because, you know, there's a lot of fun experiences out here. And in the gambling world, man, it's a lot of crazy stuff happening.
We're going to get into some of that soon. Please. We're going to do the pool. I can't wait. We're going to play pool together. I'm going to try and smash Yanni on the pool. I don't know if he's any good. We might have to put a little bet.
Absolutely.
We're in Vegas. We got to put a bet.
I haven't touched the pool stick in 20 years, and I'm like, let's bet.
Let's bet there. We're gamblers at the end of the day, man. So this is the gambler's perspective. But Yanni, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Nice to meet you finally in person, man.
It's been good, man. And everyone's giving you massive love on here.
Thank you. Love you
guys.
Shout out
to everybody.
He's the man, bro. Honestly, like seriously, we got to know each other before we ever met here. Now, today was the first time we actually met in person.
Yeah.
But just through like DMs and stuff, and I could tell instantly, just having dealt with so many people, where they are, where they are in their sports betting journey. And I immediately understood that James was legit. Like he's past that threshold where he's now looking at doing other stuff than just bet to make money. And I love that. So again, I'm telling you now, there's not enough good content out there. What I said in the beginning, 99.5% of sports bettors lose. I promise you, the content is not coming from the 0.5%. It's coming from the 99.5%.
Yeah.
So most of the content we're consuming comes from losing sports bettors. It's so rare that a plus EV guy is going to be on YouTube, be on freaking Instagram, be on Twitter. I'm telling you, most of the guys that I move with, guys that I meet every week that I bet with, none of them have social media. I swear to you, all of them are above, 50, 60 years old, almost all of them. But none of those old school guys even understand what it is, have no idea. So I promise you, if you got some solid guys, give them the support when you know they're plus EV, because there's just too much nonsense out there. That's why I started doing more content.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just got to put that stuff to bed. Just listen. It's okay not to be a winning sports bettor. All of us started somewhere, but don't act like an expert if you're not there yet, because you're misleading a lot of decent people that are just trying to learn the right way. You know what I mean?
You know what's funny? And before we close out, just to branch off on your point, the first video I ever made, guys, the first video I ever made in my entire life was in 2019, right? The first video I ever made about gambling. And what I said I didn't come out to be a predictions guy. I didn't come out to be any of this shit. It kind of just naturally happened because that's what other people were doing and just like talking about fights. But the first video I ever did, I was stuttering, I was shy, I was in the camera. I was like, it was so funny. I've actually unlisted it on YouTube, but I've got it there. But I've unlisted it. And it's like, I posted a clip of it, like last year or something. And I was like really shy. But the first thing I said to the camera was, the reason I'm making this video is because I've been betting for the last 10 years. And that was back in 2019, right? I've been betting for 10 years. And all I'm seeing online, on Instagram, on YouTube, is fakes, frauds, scammers, people talking about insane stuff like match fixing and just really crazy stuff, right? And I'm just speaking about, this is literally what I said verbatim. So the reason I'm making this YouTube channel, I don't even know what I'm going to do with it, but the reason I'm making it is to dispel the myths, dispel the frauds, and tell you actually the reality of sports betting, why it's not easy, why it's hard, why most people shouldn't even do it, etc., etc. So the exact same.
Keep that out there, bro.
Yeah,
I always say,
should.
I look at a lot of my old stuff, and I always
yeah.
say, if you don't cringe at your old self,
cringy,
you haven't evolved.
Yeah.
Either you've been a saint your entire life, or you haven't evolved. Like, I look at myself, my old self, dude, I cringe at it. Like in my 20s and 30s, I really cringe at it. But like I said, either you were a saint or you haven't evolved if you don't cringe.
It's true, it's true. But anyway, yeah, me and you, similar origin story, at least for the content stuff. So yeah, thanks again for coming on, man. And
thank you.
Let's play some pool, eh?
All over it. All over it.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for your time.
coming. Good luck this weekend.